Talk shoes. Recorded live.
Hi, everybody. It's Thursday, September the 1st. My gosh, the year's almost over. Anyway, I hope you've all had a wonderful week. It's a beautiful day here in Southern California. We had a little 4-point-something earthquake not too far from me, but I guess that was it for today. So it's a nice way to start off the month. We have a new guest speaker tonight. His name is John Henry Doe. He will be going by that name. And he's done a process that was spoken about on one of our calls. I think it was episode number 90, the one where David Merrill and Michael Joseph were on talking about the particular way they endorse the back of a check. Hi, John Henry Doe.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm excellent.
How are you doing today?
Fine. Can you hear me?
Good. You were a lot better before.
I was better before?
Well, now you're good. Just stay right close to your mic.
Okay.
Or the mouthpiece.
Yeah.
And tell us what you told me the other day when we spoke. Fill everyone in on what you've been doing and how it turned out. I also should mention that you're already listed on the guest speakers page on the My Private Audio website, and right there under your name I have the sample of the IRS 1040 form that you're probably going to speak about. I also posted it in the file section of the TalkShoe group.
Right.
So go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you discovered what you did and all of that.
Well, this information is really kind of specifically for a certain group of people only. If you're not filing 1040s and if you're not paying actual taxes, it's probably not going to help you. In fact, it won't help you, because I know a lot of your callers don't file, don't pay, and they shouldn't. But for those people who do, people who are employees and are receiving a payment every so often per month from their employer, this can definitely help them to stop paying income taxes, lawfully or at law, however you want to say it. Okay, but so for all the people that are listening that don't file and don't pay and can't get anything back, you can't get anything back unless you pay money in. And so this is for those people who do pay money in who would like to get it back, because it does work. And again, you mentioned the name before, so I guess I can say it again too. David Merrill discovered this information. I did not. I just used to be a professional tax preparer, so I know how the forms work, and I don't file or pay either, simply because I don't have to. And I do have a very, very close friend who is an employee, works for a large national bank, and that's the only person I knew I could actually talk to him about David's ideas, shared that with them, showed them how it worked, and then hey, would you like to try it and see if we can get you a tax refund based on his demanding lawful money process? Okay?
Yeah, what was the endorsement exactly?
On the back of the check, and this was given by Michael Joseph, I think it was last summer, about a year ago, because we started doing this in October. So it was in August or September that David Merrill was on discussing this whole concept. And on the back of the check, and I guess step one is if you're actually an employee, you do pay through withholding, or even if you're a private contractor or an independent business person and you file 1040s and pay estimated taxes, as long as you're paying taxes in, you can get those taxes back. Again, if you're not paying taxes in, you can't get anything back, so it won't work for you. But for those people who are, don't want to, if you're sick of playing games with the IRS and trying all the A for V and all the other silly at-law guru garbage, this does work, and I proved it to myself and to my friend. Okay? And the back of the check, now step one is if you're working and you are withholding and you want to get that money back, most employers today ask their employees to take direct deposit. I wonder why they do that. Because if you do direct deposit, then there's no way for you to properly non-endorse the check and get your tax money back. So, it's convenient, and then you can, it's all nice and time-saving and all that. But the step one for anyone who wants to try this technique is you're going to have to go down to your payroll department and ask to have a check issued to you for your paycheck. No more direct deposit. That's step one. No more direct deposit. So then once you get a paycheck and you've altered, because my friend was the same way, working for a large national bank, the paycheck was coming each time direct deposit. So the first thing they had to do was go stop direct deposit and start getting paychecks again, which they did. And then on the back of those checks, you simply print in in lowercase, upper and lowercase, but no, just do it all in lowercase. And just the first word is demand, in and is made for lawful money per 12 USC, that's United States Code, section 411, comma, the word by in lowercase by, comma, and then the signature that matches the signature on your driver's license. Just like, because when you go to the bank to cash this check, because you're going to cash it and take the money out and put it in a safe place or, fireproof box or something, and the signature that you put on this check when you non-endorse it has to match the signature on your driver's license, because the teller is going to look at that sometimes. Most all the time they look at to make sure there's some kind of scribble on there, but they might be particular and ask you, because they, typically you have to show a form of ID, which is usually a driver's license, and that will have your signature on it. So this signature on this check should be matching that one on your driver's license. Okay? So I'll repeat that again. It's demand is made for lawful, and this is I'm reading. You can print it at your own. Everyone prints a little differently, smaller, larger. There's 4 lines on the back of a typical personal check. And sometimes the first line will have a little X on it, like endorse here. Ignore that. On the first line, you write demand is made for lawful. On the second line, you write money per 12 USC. Section 411. You don't have to write the word section. You can either just put 12 USC 411. It's understood that that's Title 12 United States Code Section 411. Or you can use that little double S type that line. It also signifies section. So on the second line is money per 12 USC 411, comma, by, BY, comma, and then a signature that matches the signature on your driver's license or on your identification, whatever form of identification you use. That's really all there is to it. Now, you should do that someplace. If you have a copy machine at your house, you're going to make a copy of that check, front and back, making sure that that verbiage is very visible and clear on the copy. And then you want to make 2 copies of that front and back check. One you're going to send along with the 1040 form or the tax return when you file your 1040 to get your income tax withholding back, and the other one you're just going to keep in the file to prove it. Now, my friend did this. We started in October of 2010. We did October, November, December, and I do have a 1040 form that's kind of modeled after that, but I've adjusted the names and the amounts and that sort of thing, just to make an example. But the return was filed, I believe, in mid-March of 2011, and the refund check came on May 6th, 2011. I saw it. Now, this whole thing works kind of cool. You're just going to have to do it and try it. The sooner you start, the more money you can get back. And then, of course, once you've gotten your refund for 2011, then you can do it for the whole year of 2012. And just as long as you're working and you are withholding and you want to get that back each year, simply go through this process. That's really all there is to it, Angela. This is not complex. And all the credit goes to David Merrill. Only thing he did is show me, and it made total sense, because quite simply, the reason he calls it a non-endorsement is because the typical person goes in and cashes their check when they get a check. Most often they're direct deposit now. But when they do get a check, they go in and they just write on their name, for deposit only to account number such and such. When you do that, you are endorsing the private credit system of the Federal Reserve banking system. Okay, so that's why he calls it a non-endorsement. By putting this on the back of the check, demanding lawful money, which is your lawful right to do, you're simply declaring that you no longer choose to participate in the private credit system of the Federal Reserve banking system, and you just want to use lawful money. And that lawful money is not subject to tax. When you use Federal Reserve notes and just make your standard general deposit, you're basically saying, I accept that I'm using your private credit, your Federal Reserve notes, and the annual use fee for using a Federal Reserve note is called the income tax. It's really just that simple.
Okay, we have a question in the audience. Are we cashing this check, or can we deposit it? What?
I suggest, and also David Merrill suggests, that you actually cash the check. Take the money out, be careful, obviously. Put it someplace in a fireproof box where you and your spouse or someone, yourself, knows where it's at. And then you simply pay your bills with money orders. You know, you can go to a Safeway or a grocery store and get a money order for probably less than 75 cents. And, you know, you can mail off your checks and make your payments that way. Now, that might be inconvenient for you, but then I just, like in the example that I have on this tax form, this person paid in $19,749 in income taxes. Well, you can get that all back for the inconvenience of having to cash the check. Seems to me like getting a $19,000, almost a $20,000 pay raise justifies any inconvenience of having to take the money in cash. So, yes, take it in cash. And it's a good idea to have it in cash anyway. Holy cow, people. If you're not watching what's going on in this country and on this planet, do you trust the banks? They might just close them all down one day and say, tough beans, your little digits in your account, we're going to hold them for a while. So then what are you going to do? And I would suggest to everyone out there, no matter what you do and where you are, keep 6 months of your operating cash flow in this fireproof box so that you can pay your mortgage, your gas, food, entertainment, all those kinds of things. So you can, whatever your monthly bills are, keep 6 months of that cost someplace where just you can get it, and not in a bank. That way if something happens, and I don't want that to happen, but that way at least you're covered so that if something bad does happen, which many are predicting, doesn't mean it's going to happen, but why not just hedge against it? Take care of that. You got 6 months someplace where, you know, the banks can't keep it from you. So when everybody else is standing in the welfare line or the food lines or taking vaccinations or whatever they intend to do, you can just go take care of stuff until things get changed. And you can keep more if you want. That's totally up to you.
Okay, we have some questions. If anyone has a question, press *8, and that'll put you up in line. Wireman is asking, what do you do with checks that have to be direct deposited, such as Social Security?
Is there no way that you can get a Social Security? No, I don't get Social Security, so I don't deal with it, so I don't know. But it seems to me like you could go to your Social Security Administration or your nearest office and say, I want to be paid directly by check, not by direct deposit. And just,
what if they say no?
Well, if they say no, then you're kind of in a tough spot. Then what you might do, and you'll have to try this because I have not done it, is you go to your bank account and ask to see your original bank signature card, and you write on the bank signature card, demand is made for lawful money per 12 U.S.C. 411, by, your signature, where the signature line on the signature card would line up. And then in addition to that, you might also add the notation, all transactions to be by special deposit. Because what happens when people make a general deposit, whether it be by direct deposit or when you deposit a check into your checking account as a general deposit, you're transferring the title of that money to the bank. That's why the IRS can walk into the bank and just seize money out of your account because it's not your money anymore. Had you made that deposit by special deposit and made that notation on the bank signature card, or even if this guy gets that's what he's going to have to do for his Social Security account. He's going to have to try something like that. And then he has to demand that the bank allow him to make all deposits by special deposit. If they won't let you make that alteration to your existing checking account, then I would open up a new checking account and make sure that all transactions to be by special deposit and including that demand is made for lawful money per 12 U.S.C. 411 by, so on and so forth, and signature. Put that on the new signature card. Try that. I happen to have a checking account with no Social Security number on it, so I've not had to go open up an account by special deposit in a bank yet. I may do that, but I don't work, so I don't have checks to deposit on a regular basis. And again, I'm not withholding, so there's nothing for me to get back. So that's what the person is just going to have to try to do, Angela.
Yeah, and just open a new account and put that on the signature card.
Right. You can either try to adjust the existing signature card of your existing checking account or open up a new account. And I would suggest make it a non-interest-bearing checking account. That makes it simpler for them. They don't have to report any interest earned to the IRS. What few dollars you're going to lose in interest, you more than save in income tax.
Can you recommend a particular bank that wouldn't give us too much trouble?
I use Chase. I mean, I don't know what's available to I think Chase is a national bank, but I don't know if they're in all 50 states. But, that doesn't mean anything. It's going to depend upon the teller you talk to, and if you ask to make this special deposit notation on the signature card, odds are you're going to end up talking to the bank manager anyway. Obviously, be courteous. Be kind. Don't be condescending. Don't try to explain the code. When my friend goes in and cashes their check each payday, she was only asked once so far, but the teller asked her, she is a female, the teller asked the lady, "What is this on the back of your check?" And my friend just simply stated, and it's so simple, it's so direct, and it makes so much sense, "Oh, that's just something I do for my taxes." Don't try to go and explain Title 12, Section 411, and the Federal Reserve isn't federal, and don't bother. You just you need the account, so just be nice. And again, I haven't tried it, but that would be something that someone can go and try and then report back to you, Angela, and see how the banks are responding to the demand for special deposit or the requirement. And now, there's another person who was on another one of these calls here just like a week or so ago, August 23rd, who was talking about on the signature card, they recommend that you, on the signature card, will have someplace in there where it says U.S. person, and then draw a line through that on the signature card, and right above it, man or woman, as the case may be. And also where it says signature, line out the word signature, and right above it, autograph. And then put that special deposit notation on the form, because it says on there someplace that you have right to make adjustments and alterations to the document. But, of course, if you sign it without making any alterations, then you've accepted the contract as it is. So that's what that person would have to do.
Something here, guest 13 is adding, which says also inform the IRS that it was never your will and intent to gift or pledge to them the energy of your labor. Therefore, demand everything be, I don't know what else. You can put the demand for lawful money on the signature card. Read the signature card. It will allow you to redact anything on that card that you do not want on it. I have direct deposit. Oh, that's interesting.
There's some interesting comments on the chat group. You say, I went through a bank manager with quote of 12 U.S.C. 411. They made me wait, but then accepted that check. See, so they'll let you. Looks like it, and I don't know. One guy says, is this guy joking? Is Chase in all 50 states? Go to a credit union. Use whatever entity or institution you choose. I just mentioned Chase only because I happen to have an account with Chase that has no Social Security number. That's my only reason for mentioning Chase.
Okay. Don't worry about that. Boo, be nice.
Yeah, well, whatever. This is not for everybody, and there's always going to be the people out there who don't want to try it, and hey, don't. Choice is absolutely yours. This is not legal advice. This is just private entertainment conversation, sharing some ideas on a potential idea. I can just tell you that there has been, now that the return that we filed this year was filed in March, and through August 31st and even September 1st now, there's been no letter from the IRS saying that's a frivolous return, please refile, blah, blah, blah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you filled it out?
Yeah, if people want to understand, it's pretty simple. If they pull up that 1040, it's really very easy to follow. I'm looking at the one, you put it on your website, right, so they can pull it up and look at it?
Yep.
Have you got it up there, Angela?
I do.
Pull up your 1040.
I have it in several places now.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, it just, the top part is real straightforward. This person happened to be single. It's a male, John Henry Doe, right? Line 7 is where you put the W-2 amount when you do your return. Now, some of these people will use paid tax preparers. You can do that, but you're going to have to, you're going to have to tell them, here's what I want you to do, and you got to make them do it, or it simply won't work. Or you can just fill it out yourself. This stuff is pretty simple to do. You can see this person, John Henry Doe, had wages on line 7. This is wages, salaries, tips, attached forms, W-2, had $135,000 of income, had some taxable interest, had some ordinary dividends, and also had taxable refunds. This person lives in Arizona, and this person was able to, through my help, get back all state income tax refunds for 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, and 2010. And that all hit on their Form 1040 in 2010. So you can see they had taxable refunds of a fairly large amount there. Okay? And then you can see where it all takes place. The only other thing you really need to do is the rest of that form is pretty straightforward. But on line 21, where it says other income, list your type and amount. Well, it doesn't have to be income. It can be a loss also. Or in this case, you'll see there's a notation that says demand for lawful money reduction and $35,000. So if you added up, everything from line 7 through line 20B, or line 21, you're going to come up with $114,955. Their income has been reduced by $35,000 for all those checks that were properly non-endorsed. Okay? So then you can follow the form all the way down, and you can see that the tax due based on this recalculation was it's on line 44 on the back of on page 2 of the 1040. The tax due was $15,388. They paid in $19,749 on line 61, so they had a refund of $4,361. Okay? If this person had not done this adjustment, this demand for lawful money reduction, they would have owed taxes of $25,015. I just redid it. If you had not done this based on that $135,000 gross wage and all those other items on the front of the 1040, the tax liability, the amount owing would have been on line 44 would have been $25,015. And then they only paid in $19,749 on line 61. They would have had to pay, not get a refund. They would have had to pay taxes of $5,266. So by doing this, they basically gained back almost $10,000. They got back a refund instead of having to pay. So the total savings really is almost $10,000, $4,361 plus the $5,266 they would have had to pay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's why they call it a return, to return the money back to you.
Yeah. And see, the only way you can get back the money is if you file. And again, if you're not paying in, and you're not paying any withholding, or even if you have your own business and you're paying by estimated taxes, the only way you can get the money back is if you file a return. Unless you come up with a better idea. This is something that, and even if the people who are listening don't file, don't pay, don't withhold, they sometimes will have friends. In fact, all of them will probably have friends someplace that work and get a paycheck. And they can just go tell their friends, hey, you ought to try this. This person did, and the check came again on May 6th. I actually went to the bank with them and helped them cash it or watched them cash it.
And
so
it did have right to demand lawful money.
Pardon me?
And you have the right to demand lawful money.
That's right. And it's in Title 12, Section 411. It tells you have a right to demand lawful money. See, because what we're using is not money, is it? It's credit. Private credit issued by the Federal Reserve banking system. So stop endorsing that system and demand that you get lawful money and move out of that system, and you don't have to pay their taxes if you're not using their money, their credit, really. And again, when you file this return, you see I also built a little schedule, because you see the amount on line 21 on the 1040, that needs to be a gross figure. See, because the checks, when you have copies of checks, the check is for the net amount, right? All you're getting is just the take-home amount. The take-home amount is net of all the other federal withholding, state withholding, FUTA, SUTA, FICA, whatever it might be. So I built a little schedule, which I attached the return so that the IRS could see that there was the total amount of the checks for this person was only about $24,580. You can see that little schedule that Angela should have had up there for everyone too. You have to add back all the federal withholding, state withholding, all those other things, so you come up with $35,000, and that's the amount that goes to line 21 on the front of the 1040. See, that's really all there is to it. So when you file your return next year, if you choose to do this, because it's totally up to you, do your 1040 like this, model your return right after this one, then include this schedule. You could use this as a format and then go in and put in your own names and numbers and all that stuff, and attach that to your return along with one of those, all the copies of the checks, front and back. Remember, each time you get a check, you make a copy of the front and back of that check after you've endorsed it, and you keep that in a file. Then you make 2 copies of that page so that you can send one with the return and keep one in your file in case there's ever any issues. They won't bother you, though, because once you show them, see, we didn't try to hide anything here, try to sneak it through. we said, hey, here, I also included a copy of Title 12, Section 411, along with the return. Read it for yourself, Mr. IRS agent, whoever's reviewing the return. Here's a schedule that proves how much was demanded back in a lawful money reduction, and then here's the return that shows the total amounts received. And so, and along with all those copies of the check, and there are other schedules that you might have in your return, depending on how you do your return and what you do and all those kinds of things. It's pretty darn simple and straightforward.
But you would have had to have endorsed your checks with that particular verbiage for the amount of money you're going to collect, or is that something that's not necessary once you start doing it? Or, I mean, can you go back for money that you've paid in on other years?
I don't know. I have not tried that. What you're talking about is doing the non-endorsement nunc-pro-tunc now for then back to some. You could, if somebody wanted to try it, they could go do that. You can attach
1040X,
go back, and you can go back 3 years on a 1040X. You can go back 3 years and adjust just take off the salaries, and then on the 1040X explain that you're demanding lawful money nunc-pro-tunc and you want it all back. Then just be prepared. You don't know how they're going to respond. They might come back and say it's frivolous. They might just come back and go, well, we'll give you back 3 years, but you can't go back to 1980 or whenever you started working. But you could try it for the 3 years. I have not done that. I guess I just don't want to. Until I see this work a little more, we might try that later on. If somebody out there wants to, they can try it and then just report back to the group and say, here's what they did when I tried that. That's kind of what we're here for, is to share ideas. And when I spoke with I sent Angela an email on May 25th about this whole thing, and she just responded to my email, like about a week ago, Angela?
Yeah, about that. Hey, I'm behind. What can I say?
Ago. She's busy, and that's fine. But I was going to wait for another year, do it again, and see what I got. But in talking, once you responded to me, we started talking about it, and it's like we decided that we would discuss this with the people tonight. So
Jesse Livermore on here is asking, why can't you just tell them it has always been your intent, and you don't have to prove any right to them?
Well, go for it and try it.
Yeah.
You can say anything. We can talk about anything. How they respond, you're just going to have to try. But, you're just you can try it. You can say you don't, and you absolutely do have the right. Your labor is exchanged without gain. That's in another section of the code. But,
right.
That isn't, all that and 50 cents will get you a cup of coffee if you can find coffee for 50 cents. You got to try it. The only thing, and that's the reason I'm even explaining this to people and letting this information out. David Merrill spoke about it last summer 2010.
And it worked for you when you did it.
Worked.
So, yeah.
So,
okay, we have questions. Did you want to take some more questions?
Sure. I mean, they have all that information. So, yeah, sure, we can take questions, and then we'll just...
All right. Central Arkansas, go ahead. Did you have a question for our guest speaker, John Henry Doe?
Hi, Angela. How are you? Can you hear me?
Hi, Arminius. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Do you have this information on your website, first of all?
I have a copy of the 1040 form that he sent as an example.
Great.
You have a schedule, too, don't you, Angela?
I don't know. Was there a schedule attached to it?
Supporting schedule. It shows it's the documentation to prove line 21. You need to have that.
Was it attached to the 1040 you sent me?
No, it's not attached to it. I sent it to you in two separate parts. So you should have
that's why I emailed you and I said, is there anything else you wanted me to post up there?
Well, you had both
of them.
You said you received both of them.
I have abatement stuff.
Okay, the abatement stuff, that's fine, but you need to have that little schedule. That didn't come. You didn't get that?
I didn't notice it. I'll go back and look.
Yeah, you should have it, because when I sent that email to you with the 1040, it was included as part of that email. You might look at it.
Okay.
Anyway, in the meantime, I can maybe help respond to this person's question.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we got that straightened out, because I really want to see that
that
return.
schedule is important. It helps to support your position.
Great. John Henry Doe, thank you for your information. It's really, really helpful, although I haven't had a paycheck in 4 years now at least, and I haven't filed in more than that. But what I am curious of, and I apologize for taking you off the subject briefly, although you explained what you have explained extremely well. I'm curious, you say you don't deal with Social Security, you don't have a Social. How did you opt out of that system, just out of curiosity?
I just don't participate in it. I'm not saying that I opted out of it. Actually, I did back in 2006 file an SS-521 form. But when I reach the age of being able to apply for Social Security, I will apply for it. Well, I'll do the paperwork, but obviously the paychecks and the Social Security checks go to the fiction, right? It's not. But I want a check, though. I don't want it direct deposited.
Right.
So yeah. But I have not. I don't pay into the Social Security system because I don't make any money. I live off what I earned back when I was working.
All right. Great. Thank you.
So,
Listen, I've read a lot of John Henry. I've read a lot of your stuff on various sites, and it's always been interesting.
Pretty common name, huh?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah. Thank you very much, and I'll
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Arminius. Okay, moving along. California, go ahead. Did you have a question? California.
Yes. Hi, then. Angela, can you hear me? Good?
Hi, Carlos. Is that you?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay.
Fine, thank you.
Great show. I think it's going to be helpful for a lot of people.
One
question. Obviously, we can make a stamp, and then so we can always have it nice and clear copy of it, right?
Sure, you can make a stamp if you're, you're going to spend what, $30 on the stamp? It takes you about 5 seconds to print that on there each time, and if you get a lot of checks, it might make sense. But the person that I'm working with really only gets 2 checks a month, so it's not that much trouble, and they don't feel like investing $30 in a stamp when you get a blue pen and print it on there in a couple of seconds.
Yeah,
the pen will
the
last.
only reason I like the stamp because I wanna make out 2 stamps and give it one to my kid, 1 each. I mean, because that way they don't have to remember what to put on there.
What a nice stocking stuffer.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, certainly your choice.
Yeah. Anyway, and
That's
what about
great.
I get paid? I am retired, and I sold my business, and I get so much money every month paid to the order of my business. Obviously, I can do the same thing, but I haven't filed in about 3 years.
Well, if you haven't paid in, so there's no withholding to get back, don't bother. Don't waste your time. You can't get anything back because you haven't paid anything in.
Right. Okay. I mean, it's just worthless to do it anyway, right? Because we're not going after anything because I haven't paid in. Okay. And what do you recommend? Because the IRS is after me for $49,000. They say I owe them for about 3 years I didn't file. Is there anything that you can tell me what to do or how to address that?
Well,
They have
it depends on how you are positioned in life. If you have a lot of stuff in your name, your house, your car, your boats, those kinds of things, if you have those in your name, then you're at risk. You're exposed. So then you're going to have to, you're going to have to try whatever you can find that works. Acceptance for value is inconsistent. I haven't found anything that really stops them from going ahead and seizing your assets. If you don't have it exposed where they can't find it, then they can't steal anything, and then they just really don't bother you anymore. Right. Now, you always have the option to conditionally accept their offers to contract. You may want to look into the trust technology stuff. That there's a guy out in Florida working on that. There may be some things you could learn there. There's all kinds of people out there who are saying they've gotten it taken care of through acceptance for value, but I don't know a single person personally who ever has gotten that done. I would just. Then the other thing you might do, depending again on where you're positioned, how exposed your assets are, is do the non-statutory abatement. See, because they're not trying to tax you; they're trying to tax that fiction, right? Whatever you want to call it. So you could do the non-statutory abatement and that's if they push it. Frankly, what I would do, again, if it were me, and because I'm positioned where I'm not exposed, when the letter comes from the IRS, I simply take the letter. Usually they send it in a window envelope. Take a little Sharpie, a black Sharpie, and black out your address so they can't mail it back to you. And then write on the outside of the envelope, no such entity at this location, and then just take it and throw it right back in the mailbox. Don't put a stamp on it. Just throw it right back in on their postage, and it'll get mailed right back to them.
Okay, yeah.
If you stop acting like the taxpayer, if you stop acting like the defendant, they'll stop treating you like one. Maybe. There's no guarantee. Just depends. Now, if you've got a really big house in your name and, the agencies where you've got nice cars and boats and all kinds of stuff, they might really come after you in a hard way. Then you have to go to the abatement, but only after they try to, have a show cause hearing or something like that.
I do have quite a bit of assets and properties, but fortunately, I control them. I don't own them. I granted all of them into a non-grantor spendthrift trust.
Well, if the IRS throws your Social Security number into their system and trying to look for your stuff, it shouldn't pop up then, right?
No.
Then I would just, and you got to watch. I mean, you'll know when the next you can and see. Everybody thinks we got to write some big long letters and do all kinds of stuff. Really, you don't have to. And I've done this with the Arizona Department of Revenue. I live in Arizona. They sent me a letter years ago because the IRS told them to hassle me because the IRS was hassling me. This is all years ago. But I just did the same thing, wrote on the outside of the letter from Arizona Department of Revenue, no such entity at this location, throw it back in the mailbox, and I've never heard another thing from them since. And that was probably 2 or 3 years ago, if not 5 years ago. I don't remember. It's been so long. So, if they're sending letters, if you're responding, stop responding. Next time the letter comes in the mail, do that. If they're going to do something else, I would just not respond to any of their letters as long as your stuff isn't exposed. If you're working for a salary, you're working as an employee someplace, if you do that, they'll just go ahead. You're not opening the letter, so they'll just go through with their administrative process, and then they're going to go ahead and seize your stuff. You've got to set up that special deposit. See, all of it, and that's another thing you might do. What was your name again, sir?
My name is Carlos Aguirre.
Oh, Carlos, what you might do is consider, if you don't already have an account with that special deposit notation on there, go down and open one. The only way anyone can take any money out of that account without your written consent is if you go down and do it yourself. So if you have that, see, that's what we're all doing in a mistake that we're all making is we deposit our checks in general deposit into a bank. Deposit, signature, deposit to account number such and such. Well, boom, you just lost that money. It's not your money anymore. It's commingled with all the other funds in the bank. I'm using that term funds loosely, all the other credit that's in the bank, and then they can do what they want with it. But if you get that special deposit notation on your account, and if you just wrote on your account, demand is made for lawful money per 12 U.S.C. 411 by blah, 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 if you do that, that should stop them also. I just haven't tried it, so I just don't know. I'm just telling you, try it, but don't put a whole bunch of money into that account. Because if they can get it and seize it, well, then you're out $50 or $100 or whatever you have in there. You can live with that. The bulk of your money you should probably keep someplace else where they can't seize it, where no bank can seize it, until you prove this. Angela and the group that are people that are listening to this call, some of you are just going to have to go out there and try it. Maybe some of you already have. If someone has, I'm not looking at the chat group right now, so maybe somebody has, and they can report back and say, hey, I did that, and hey, it worked, or it didn't work, or whatever. But yeah, like I see here, guest 13 is saying, return their abandoned paperwork. That's what an abatement does. But I wouldn't use the abatement immediately. I'd use the abatement. If something comes from a court, that's when I abate. If it's just coming from the IRS, and again, I'm not exposed, my assets were not where they cannot seize them, well, then I'm just going to throw the envelope back in the mail, just writing no such entity at this location, throw it right back in the mailbox. But you need to take your Sharpie and black out your address so they can't mail it back to you again, so it just keeps coming back, showing up in your mailbox all the time. Black out the address of the straw man, right on the outside, no such entity at this location, throw it back in the mail, forget about it. You see another one, do the same thing. If you get some kind of court action or something that they're going to go seize your assets or whatever, then you do an abatement. And Angela has the non-stat, and I did the abatement myself personally, and it worked. I abated a parking ticket way back in the 90s. I lived in Denver at that time, and the parking ticket was for a large amount because they had just opened up DIA, and I parked outside while I ran inside to check the screen to see when my wife was coming in on an airplane. Anyway, I got a ticket. I abated it. And just to make a long story short, my wife then worked downtown in Denver, and she had to park outside because there was no parking, and she was always getting parking tickets because she couldn't get to the parking meter in time to feed the doggone thing. So, but one time we were going to go home. We used that car. We both grew up in Montana, so we were going to go home. The car was booted. So we couldn't get the boot off until we paid all the tickets. So I went down and paid all the parking tickets, and the only one I didn't have to pay was the parking ticket that I did the non-statutory abatement on. And as further proof that the abatement works, the a United States District Court came after me for criminal contempt many years ago, and I used the abatement and stopped it. Okay, and again, the trial they had for the straw man was in July of 2006, and I didn't go, and I haven't heard from them since. Because you're just abandoning. You're sending their paperwork back to them saying that's not me. Because they can't talk to you and I. They really can't. At least the attorneys and the judges, unless you invoke equity somehow, then they can talk to the man. Equity is involved with the man. All this at-law stuff that all the people out there are doing, that involves the fiction. So attorneys can't talk to the man. They can only talk to the fiction. Same with the court, the judge. So and then when you do the abatement, you can try using your county sheriff to serve the documents, the abatement documents, on the judge. If it goes to that, for someone who might be dealing with that issue, use the sheriff if you can. Here in Arizona, in Maricopa County, it can take up to 6 weeks for them to deliver the documents. It costs $200, and it may not cost $200, but you got to pay them $200 up front. When they do get around to serving it, if their fees are $40 to serve it, then you get the $160 back. But the simpler way to do it is just use registered mail and send it directly to the judge. See, because the thing about it is, if you're dealing with a court case, never file anything into the case unless you just like to have that fun. Robert Fox is very good at that. There are guys out there that are very good at going into court, and they win. But, they've got a lot of battle scars to show for what they've learned. If you just don't want to deal with it, if you want to handle it simply for a very small amount of money, do the abatement, and then send the abatement directly to the judge. Don't file any paperwork in the record or into the case. If you do, you've shammed the abatement, which means you simply shot the abatement right in the head. Don't write if more letters come from the court, don't open them. Send them back. Okay? If anybody tries to knock on your door, don't open the door. Don't talk on the phone. If you do any of that sort of thing, and after you've done an abatement, you sham the abatement. The abatement fails. So you can't do an abatement and then walk into court and start talking about codes and statutes. The judge is just sitting up there laughing at you. He's not doing it, facially, but in his mind he's going, well, you dummy. You walked into my courtroom after you're doing your abatement. You're crazy. So then they hang you, okay?
What's all in the abatement that nullifies anything else?
All it really does, it moves you into equity, okay? Equity deals with the man. At-law deals with the fiction. So that's why we're all getting our butts kicked in the at-law courts, because you can't bring truth into an at-law court. It's got to be colorable. If you bring in too much truth, they'll throw you in jail for contempt or whatever. Okay, so what the abatement does is simply, it's a roundabout way of doing it, but as it works out, that's what you're doing. You're going in an equity in private. Okay, you're keeping it private. You're saying to the judge, hey, this paperwork that you sent isn't me. And you have the abatement documents are there. People can look at them. They're very simple. They're kind of Christian oriented. You can modify. I would use it just as it is. And again, I didn't get that abatement stuff. I didn't create it. A guy named Randy Lee, did it way back in the 90s. Okay, and it works. It's just simple. It's for the people who don't want to fight. You just want to get it out of your life. You just don't want the hassle. Stay under their radar. Don't be kicking the gorilla all the time, then the gorilla can't thump you. So that's all the abatement does. It simply says, I'm staying private. This paperwork is for a fiction. It's not me. Correct your paperwork so it talks to me, the man, and then I can talk to you. Till then, I can't talk to you. Have a nice day. I'd like to use the Dean Clifford response, but I can't do that on this phone call. I can do it with Angela, but not on a phone call. Angela knows what that is. So does those of you who watched Dean Clifford and how he responded to the Canadian Revenue Department, Revenue Canada, then you know how Dean responded to the Revenue Canada. I thought it was pretty classy.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the abatement, and it's exciting. Expand a little more, if you may.
Well, first of all, let me ask, did you want me to post that abatement stuff?
Sure. That's why I redid it, so it's got just John Henry Doe and the name in there.
All right.
And, the abatement works for anything. You can use it for parking tickets, traffic tickets, and really it's a 3-part process, and all the parts are there. You have to do, first you do the abatement, then you do a default judgment, and you do you do the abatement, then a default judgment, and you have to post the default judgment in a legal notice newspaper, and that's all given there, so you can format your documents the same way. And, here in Arizona, now I haven't done it for a few years since '06, but it was $35 to post the legal notice of the default judgment for the abatement in a legal notice newspaper. Don't put it in the Denver Post or the LA Times unless they have a legal notice section. It has to be in a legal notice newspaper. And there are specific newspapers that do nothing but show, foreclosures and legal notices and all the things that are posted in a legal notice newspaper if you've ever seen one. So you post that default judgment in that legal notice newspaper for 3 weeks in a row, and then it's done. And then it's a res judicata, and you'll see all that. And it's really no more complex than that.
You don't recommend posting it online on one of those, there are several registry type.
I don't know that anybody recognizes that. I do know that the law recognizes legal notices, so use the legal notice. Yeah, it's going to cost you, it costs $35. I think the total abatement probably costs you $75, maybe $100 total. So if your parking ticket is for $50, don't do it. You might just pay the parking ticket to be cheaper. I did it because it made me mad back in '96 in Denver. It was a $50 parking ticket, but I spent like $60. It was a lot cheaper back then. Registered mail was not nearly as expensive as it is now. That's 15 years ago. So the cost has risen because of that, but the effectiveness has not diminished at all. I just don't have to do it all the time, because if they try to drag me into their fictional operation, I just, hey, no such entity at this location, right back in the mailbox. I don't want to mess with them. I don't want to argue with them. I don't want to fight with them. Those people who live for that, God bless them. Go do it. That's your choice. It's like this demand for lawful money. You don't have to do it. If you want to try it, try it. One thing I would suggest on the demanding lawful money, just as an aside, don't go down and change your withholding and stop your withholding and reduce it because you're going to get a refund. Leave that in there just in case, they change their position or they do something weird next year. Then you don't have to come up with a whole bunch of money if you got to go back and refile it and pay. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Don't change your withholding, pay in the tax, and get it back as a refund. It's better to do it that way. That way, if they change or do something that you're not ready for, you've already paid in the money, it's not going to cost you as much. Now, once my friend gets their refund for 2012, we are going to put in an adjusted W-4 form, but we're going to do that under special deposit. Okay? So we're going to put that, anything that you sign, anytime you sign anything, you're making it a deposit. Actually, you're creating a trust. They'll tell you it's a contract, but really it's a trust. Can't be a contract because there's no money. You can't pay a contract until we have lawful money again. Okay? So you're entering into a trust until there's lawful money when you can actually pay. So you just make it by special deposit. Painfully simple, but just go ahead and do it. And you might learn about equity. You might want to think about, Angela, getting the equity guys to kind of get on your call and start opening people's mind that the at-law methods don't really work. The abatement just bypasses all the at-law stuff. I just want to avoid them. I don't want to argue with them. I don't want to walk in their courtroom. If you walk into their building, you're in their jurisdiction. You can say, no, I'm not, blah, 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 but I promise you it happened to me. They can grab your butt and throw you in jail anytime they want to. So, all that stuff sounds really cool when all these guys are talking on the talk shoes about, I went in and I did this and I did that. Yeah, unless I know the guy and I actually did it and I was aware and I can still ask him what happened and what he did, I have a tendency to not believe it. You got to prove to me that you really did it. I've had too many kicks in the butt to, just accept hearsay stuff anymore.
Can we relate that abatement to a foreclosure or a unlawful detainment?
I don't know that it would. It could have if you're in a at-law state. Isn't that what they call it? There's a judicial state. You could probably stop the judicial process with the abatement. The simple truth is, I haven't tried it, so I don't know. You'd have to wait and see, and go try it. If somebody's in a judicial state and they start a foreclosure process, and you can see on the envelope that it's from Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe attorneys at law, and they're going to foreclose. Open it up and then abate it. Absolutely, and then just come back and tell the group how it worked out. It could easily work. It should work, but the odds are, all the gurus out there are going to want to tell you, you got to respond. If more letters come, you got to write them back a 500-page memorandum of law showing how smart you are, and all they do is laugh, set it aside, they never read it anyway, and then they go foreclose on you anyway. You got to remember, if you do an abatement, you cannot sham the abatement. Once you've abated it, you're saying that's not me. So me can't file things into the court case. Me can't talk to guys at the door. Me can't write letters. Me can't do any of that sort of thing. You abate it, and just forget about it. If anything else comes in the mail, you simply send it back with that notation that I've mentioned several times now. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, give it a shot. Give it a shot. But, you need to do it as soon as possible. I mean, if you got a whole bunch of documents and, you've been going back and forth, you might just put them all in a big envelope, abate that whole pile, and send them back to them, and then shut up. If they send anything else, no such anything at this location. Send it back.
I just send everything back, and I send return to sender. I mean, just write that on there and never answer. The IRS not after me at all. I have about 7 properties, and I don't have nothing on my name. They don't bother me. The only reason they would bother me if I try to sell something that's something under my name, but it's off my name. But they used to hold it from selling it.
See, Carlos, you're in a good position. Your assets are protected. It's not in your name.
Right.
So when the IRS throws that Social Security number they're looking to tax into their system, your name doesn't come up. So you don't have anything as far as they can see. So they're going to go to the next guy that's got, a big house, a big boat, and 12 cars, and they're going to go after him. So, yeah, just if the next letter, if any more letters come from the IRS, just write that notation on the outside and throw it back in the mail and see what happens. Just sit back and wait. The only way I'll ever open up a letter from the IRS is if there's a check in it. And you can tell when it comes with a check. And I'm not sure I'll ever get one, but if one should ever come, that's when I would open up, I would deposit and get the money out as quick as I could. And then if they try to come back after me to get the money back, all our letters that would be coming to try and do that would just simply be returned, no such entity at this location. Right. See, we make it too complex. People want to sell you seminars, and my whole issue here and why I'm talking for Angela or with Angela is keep it simple. Here's a simple way you can get your income taxes back if you're paying them and you want to get it back. Try the demand for lawful money. If you're getting hassled on parking tickets, speeding tickets, don't go to all this stuff. And like Dean Clifford, I only bring his name up because he's kind of a sort of a current hero. And if you argue with the cops, they smash your window. Hey, just give them that stuff. It's their stuff. You just happen to hold it. If you got a driver's license and insurance, show it to them. If you don't want to do that, you don't want to have insurance, then you're going to have to deal with those consequences the other way. The abatement is not going to get you damages. It's only going to stop their process. But if you get the ticket, go home, do the abatement on the ticket, and send it back to them. And do the whole abatement process. It'll go away. I promise you. It will. Well, I better not say I promise you. There are a lot of criminals in that de facto court system, so you never know. There's no guarantees in this world, right?
All right. Very good. I'm glad you came on. I'm going to do an abatement on my wife. I'm just kidding. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Okay, next up, North New Jersey. Go ahead, North New Jersey. Did you have a question for John Henry Doe?
Yes, I don't know if I came in too late, but I didn't hear the abatement
Never
process.
too late.
Did you go over it?
Well, no, it seems to me like you're the lady that always talks about property taxes, right?
Oh, yes, I am.
I've heard you on several calls, and you might try abating the whole property tax issue. When the bill comes from the county assessor or whomever it is in New Jersey, abate it. And Angela's got the process on her website. Go look at it. It's a 3-step process. You do an abatement.
Well, I don't have it there yet, but I will have it.
Well,
up there.
you don't have it. Well, she'll have it up in the next few days. Take a look at it. Do the abatement. And even if you're in process on this thing and you're arguing with them, abate the argument. But don't talk to them anymore, But then you're going to have to wait and see what they do. If somebody slaps a notice on the outside of your door that they're going to sell your house, then you're going to have to deal with it in a different way. That should not happen. The abatement should stop it. Because, again, the taxes are due by the fiction, not by the woman I'm talking to.
And what about if you have taxes in a corporation name, that obviously isn't a woman.
A corporation is a fiction, so they can tax a corporation all day long. That's one of they created it. They're the creator of the corporation. So I believe they can tax that. You have a hard time But it's when they come after you or in your personal assets, that's when you can abate it. Because they have no jurisdiction to talk to the men and women, not in the at-law jurisdiction. Only in equity, and they don't come in equity. They only come in at-law. I don't know if that helps you. You'll just have to try it. I have not done it. I'm just telling you, I have not done it. So I can't say that I've ever abated.
You don't know of anyone who has.
No, I can't say I know anyone. See, the thing of it is, for me, for the most part, I kind of keep my head down. I abated my court case 5 years ago, and I abated parking tickets. They don't hassle me anymore. So, I'm not going to go out there and deliberately poke the gorilla just to see if I can test out some theory. So, for now, until I think I'll deal with the property tax issue, but I think, is your name Nancy?
No, Patricia.
No, that's the lady from Colorado. Anyway, doesn't matter. I think equity. You might want to start looking into I hear you on Rod Class's call sometimes, and
I'm taking Gene Keating's classes, and he's teaching equity right now.
Yeah, there you go. Well, maybe, and if he can, but there's another guy. The trouble with Gene Keating is he charges a fee for it, right? If you want to learn how to do equity for free, there's a guy down in Florida that's even more advanced than Gene on that. Okay. And see, I've never seen Gene's stuff do. And
who is that?
His name is Christian Walters. I don't think you'll mind.
Christian Walters. Okay.
Yeah, and you can
Gene mentions his name, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and they may even work together. I don't know, but I know that and I've been studying equity now for about the last 3 weeks because I just learned about it myself, and I'm going, this is the answer. We're not getting any kind of. You can't get remedy at law. In the fictional corporate courts where they deal only with fictions, your remedy lies in equity. Non-statutory inherent equity where substantive rights are recognized. That's where we have to go. And I think he's right. Christian Walters is right. And if Gene's moving on that line...
How do you get in touch with him?
Pardon me?
How do you get in touch with him? Unless maybe Angela...
If you have Skype the faith and the number 2... and trust. Her name is Lisa. That's his wife. So Skype Faith to Trust and ask her if you can join their group and start learning about it. She'll send you a whole bunch of audios. I've been listening to this trust stuff now for, like about 3 weeks. And
Faith,
it makes a lot of sense.
To Trust?
Faith, the word faith, like faith in God.
Faith to T-U-T-O.
No, the number 2. The numerical number 2. Yeah, Faith to Trust. And that's a Skype address. So you got to go on Skype, put in your contacts, and call her. Or you can go on your message and message her on Skype, and she should respond to you.
Okay.
And then he's got his own little, he's got his call, too, that he does on Wednesday nights. Let's see, I think I can find that. I'll find his number. He has a call like Angela does. His is on Wednesday nights, and is that
on TalkShoe?
Yeah, it's on TalkShoe. Call ID 41875. And you got enough stuff to listen to there. You could spend the next 2 years.
41875. Okay.
41875. 41875.
Yeah.
It's called NTT's Community Call. That's New Trust Technologies Community Call. Christian's an extremely bright man who spent a lot of hours. And if you start listening to these, but if you get a hold of Lisa through that Skype address, Faith to Trust, she'll send you some of the back ones. They just started this in about late 2009, so it's only 2 years. But you'll see that it has a lot of potential. It's going to require a lot of work on your part, but that's where we're going to find our remedy, not in at-law courts. They can't deal with people in at-law courts. They can only deal with fictions. I'm not a fiction. Hope that helps.
I know Gene's students have been trying to invoke equity, and a lot of them are not having success in changing the court.
That's because they're probably not doing it right. You'll have to, and I'm not the one to say what is right at this point in time. I would just simply say they're probably invoking statutory equity, and you don't want that. It's got to be non-statutory. It has to be private, not public. So if you're trying to do it through a court case or something, you're in at-law. And all court cases default to at-law first. You have to invoke equity But once you're in equity, there's only about 20 maximums, and equity operates totally off those maximums. So it's a whole lot simpler than the 63 million codes and statutes in the at law. I don't want to know that garbage. I never thought God would make all this stuff so complex. He didn't. It's all in equity. And it's fairly simple, but you're just going to have to take the time, and I think you probably have the time, go back and get a hold of Lisa, get those old audios and start listening to it, because it builds a foundation so that you have a foundation in equity, and you'll see it's not that complex.
All right. How did you open a bank account without a Social Security number?
It's kind of a weird situation. I used to do some accounting for a friend. I was just helping her put things on QuickBooks, and she would pay me at the end of the day with a little check, and I would take it to the bank, Chase Bank again, and I would cash it, and they would charge you a fee for cashing the check. And the teller would usually say, well, sir, John, if you will just open up a new checking account, we will give you won't have to pay that fee to cash the check. And I'd say, well, if you can open up an account without a Social Security number, I'll be glad to open up a checking account. And the typical response from the teller was, oh, no, we can't do that. So this happened numerous times. I don't know how many checks I cashed there, paying their little fee, 20 or 30 maybe. And then one day I was going in there. I just had picked up my mail. I went in to cash this check, and same routine. Well, Miss Sir, if you don't want to pay this fee, just open up a new account. And again, if you can give me an account without a Social Security number, I'll open the account right now. And the little lady goes, well, we can't do that. But a manager was standing there, and he said, oh, I think we can do that. Why don't you go ahead? Have you got 2 forms? We need to see a bill of some kind, 2 forms of ID, and then boom, next thing I knew, I had an account. That was August 30th, 2007. So to actually get that, I just kind of was a fluke. You'd probably have to go and ask the manager, say you'd like to open up an account without a
W-8-B-E-N.
W-8-B-E-N
form.
The B-E-N?
Don't do that. I wouldn't recommend the W-8-B-E-N. If
you would recommend
becoming,
it?
I would do that. If they won't let you have an account without a Social Security number, do the special deposit notation on the account. Line out U.S. person and write woman above it. Line out signature, redact or just change it. You have a right to do that. And then line out signature and put above it autograph, and then sign it as, then just go ahead and sign it. There are those that might say you sign it as grantor, some say beneficiary, some say administrator. I'm not sure about that one. So you'll have to do it and try it and see how it goes. So then but you have the special deposit notation on the actual signature card, nobody can come in here and seize that money without your written approval, including the IRS. That would also include, the county assessor or any other phony corporate entity trying to seize, because you're not in a general deposit. See, if you make a general deposit, like I've said before, you give up title. Now, Christian read this right out of the bank manager's handbook, where if you make a general deposit, you're forfeiting title to the money and putting it into the general deposit. It becomes the property of the bank. That's why the IRS doesn't need your approval or the bank's approval. They can just go in and seize it. That's why they do it. But if you put special deposit on there, they cannot do that.
So you're saying special deposit on the top, then demand for lawful money?
Well, down towards the signature part of it. The top part's going to be your name, address, and all that stuff. Okay? Down where you sign.
The endorsement on the check, back of the check?
Oh, on the back of the check you do that for demanding lawful money, yes.
Oh, you're talking about the signature card.
The signature card at a bank when you open up a checking account.
Right.
Okay, if you go in and you ask the teller, I'd like to open up a checking account, a non-interest-bearing checking account, and I'd like to have it without a Social Security number. The little teller person is going to, or the new account person is going to say, oh, we can't do that. Then you should ask, well, please, if I may I speak to the bank manager here? Is he or she here today? May I speak with them? And then ask again. Okay, and again, take in 2 forms of ID. Take in your utility bill or and your driver's license, whatever, and have it available, and hope for the best. Then if the manager says, no, we're not going to do that, because they have the right to refuse service. You can sue them if you want to, but you'll do it through equity, not at law. And then try, as a second option, say, I'd like to open an account, but I'm going to put a special notation. I want all my transactions in this account by special deposit. And then line out the U.S. person. See, because if you look at that, you have a right to redact that U.S., because you're not a U.S. person.
That U.S. person is on the signature card. I'm not sure where I've ever seen that.
Well, you read it carefully. take a magnifying glass because it might be in fine print. So again, I haven't
on
done
the back
this
of a check or the signature card.
On the signature card. I'm talking about a signature card now.
Okay,
I'm not talking about the back of the check. I'm talking about opening up a bank account where they can't seize the money out of the account. See, because that's the thing about having an account without a Social Security number. No one can seize money out of it. Okay, because I deposited a lot of money in there last year and took it all out, and the IRS never stole a dime, or anybody else for that matter. But if you cannot get a new account without a Social Security number, try opening up the new account with a Social Security number, but with the notation, all transactions by special deposit. Line out or redact, U.S. person, put woman, redact, signature, right above it, autograph, and then just sign the thing. There's that, I don't know if I can, you heard of James Madison, Angela?
Yes, he's been on our call, and I've been on his, and yes.
What you might do, ma'am, the New Jersey lady, is go look at James Madison's talk show for August 23rd, and they have some guys on there talking about equity. Dave Clarence is on there, mumbling, as he usually does, speaking under his breath. But there is someone who comes on later on and shows you how to make the notation for special deposit on the new account signature card. You might go listen to it. So it's in the first hour to hour and a half. And it's Talk Shoe. Let's see, I'll get it for you here.
August 23rd, James Madison.
August 23rd on James Madison's call. The caller ID, the Talk Shoe ID number is 35567.
Okay.
Go to August 23rd. It's titled James Madison's Community Call, Equity and Trusts. But somebody on there, I think his name is Thomas McFadden, which Angela knows. He's the one that's talking about how you make this notation and open up a new account, making these special notations on the signature card. You might just go listen to it. You can. The nice thing about talk shoes, you can back it up and listen to it, back it up and listen to it until you get it just right. That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
So hope that helps. Try that. Then come back and tell Angela what you come up with.
Yeah. We also have James Madison's
we can all be
call.
doing this.
James Madison's call is also posted on the Talk Shoe Guide page.
James Madison's community call. You could probably find it there, but I just would go to 35567. That's how I do it. But however, just as long as you get there, it's August 23rd. You'll see.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Maybe I'll put that episode in the call notes section.
Yeah, it's worth listening to because, there's a specific verbiage. If you want to get an account that they can't steal from, that's the way to do it. And the cool thing is they were talking about special deposit notation on the new account signature card, and Christian Walters and his New Trust Technologies talking about the very same thing, months ago, and when he discusses special deposits versus general deposits in one of his conversation audios from like 2009 or early 2010. So they're going down the same path, and the result is ultimately the same. One confirms the other, helps me to feel solid about going down and opening up an account. But again, I'm probably not going to do that because I already have one without a Social Security number. Hopefully someone listening tonight will go down, open up an account, put the special deposit notation on it, and within time report back and say, hey, it worked, or that was, I believe it will work because it's their law. It's their codes and statutes. And that's all the demand for lawful money is. You're using their code and statute to get lawful money. So lawful money is not subject to tax.
So you say then it would be better if you if you already have an account at the bank, to go down there and tell them you want to see the signature card. And
I want to modify my signature card.
I want to modify.
But it's got to be on the original. Can I have the original, please? I'd like to make some modifications. I'd like to redact a few things on the original signature card. Now, they might say, well, sure, you can go ahead and do that. They might say, oh, no, you can't do that. I don't know. You're going to have to go try it. If they say, no, you can't do that, then it's time to open up the new account. You can go to that bank or go to another bank, whatever, and try that special deposit notation. That's all you got to do.
Okay, and that's with or without a Social Security number, right?
Special deposit is with the Social Security number.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Because you can open that up. Getting an account without a Social Security number is pretty hard. I tried it, probably 8 or 9 months ago at Wells Fargo. I just happened to be driving by once, so I thought, hey, I'll go in and see. And when I said I want a non-interest-bearing account, but without a Social Security number, She goes, oh, I don't think we can do that. I said, well, could you please try, and would you talk to your manager? She called legal department and came back and said, well, no, we just can't do that. So, I didn't feel like pushing it that day. I don't care. I already have one without it. I just thought I'd give it a shot to see.
I went to a Wells Fargo bank, and they brought the W-8BEN and said, sure.
Well, sure, but you got to remember that the W-8BEN makes you a beneficial, participating, privileged U.S. person in the U.S. corporate fiction, makes you a U.S. person.
So then you do not want to use the W-8BEN.
Yeah, I would. If you can find an old W-8 without all that BAN, BEN, or IMY, all that garbage on there, and I have them. I found them in an old trust thing I had from 1992. It just says W-8, nothing else. You can still use that. So anyway, that's what you want to use, not that BEN. That's just a hook. That's a sucker's form to get you to declare that you're accepting federal privileges and act like a federal person, and so they can tax you and you'll be in general deposit again. That's a trick.
More questions?
Sure.
We have more questions. Okay. Quad 52108. Go ahead. Did you have a question for our guest speaker?
Hey.
Quad. Hey, there you are.
Hello, how you doing?
Good.
Fine.
Good.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Kind of came in a little late as well, but just wanted to ask in regards to if you're getting your checks direct deposit from your job, is there a way somewhere maybe to get it with the, I guess, special deposit or with the...
You got to go down to the payroll department or human resources, whatever they call it in your business, where your employer's office is, and go down and say, I want you to stop direct depositing my paycheck. I want my check in a physical form in my hand every payday. I don't want direct deposit anymore. Now, if they argue with you, say, well, we don't want to do that, say, look, it's just something I need to do for my taxes. It'll save me a great deal of money in taxes. Please.
Okay.
And when my friend tried it was no problem at all. And again, she works for a large national bank. So they did write her a letter, though, after she had requested the change to a physical check being sent each pay period. They wrote her a letter and said, we refer our employees to take direct deposit. Well, of course they do. It's a bank, and they're part of the scam. They're one of the banksters. They want you to direct deposit so you can't do the lawful demand for money, the demand for lawful money notation or non-endorsement on the back of your paychecks. If you're not getting a paycheck, it's pretty hard to demand lawful money, isn't it? Unless you maybe could go in and do that special deposit notation on your signature card and say, it's all by lawful money and under special deposit. But it's better if you just get the check sent to you. They should not have a problem doing that. And even if they charge you a small fee to issue the check, they charge you $3 or $5 to issue you the check because it's a huge inconvenience for the payroll department, pay the $5 because you'll pay 5 times, you're like $60, maybe $120 a year in check fees, but you can save thousands and thousands and tens of thousands in taxes. So it's well worth it. And again, they don't charge my friend any fee to issue her the check.
And also, I was going to say, in regards, well, actually, it's for my wife, but I know she may not be willing to get away from the direct deposit. But I was going to ask also, is it possible to maybe write some of the language as far as demand for lawful money on the W-4 itself?
Yeah, I think you could. I think you can virtually put it on, but no, I don't have experience in having done that. You're going to have to go try it. But it seems to me, look, if you're demanding lawful money and you put it on the W-4, and there's the signature line on the W-4 is in a certain position on that form, right? So you simply go above that, and you could print one out off the IRS website and just practice. So you can do a test where you can just print demand is made for lawful money per 12 U.S.C. 411, comma, by, comma, and then have that next line be the actual signature line on a W-4 form and sign right there. And that makes everything that you're receiving lawful money. Now, I don't see there'd be any problem with the payroll department. Then you'd still have to go back when you do your return. You're going to have to take that all off. I think having the check and the actual physical copy of the front and back of the check is just a greater proof. Of course, if the IRS, if you let's say, I'm just going to do a hypothetical situation. Your wife goes down and does another W-4. She writes on a W-4, demand is made for lawful money per 12 USC 411, comma, by, comma, and her signature on the signature line of the W-4. Then she files her 1040 sometime in February or March of 2012, reducing on line 21 of the 1040 the amount of money, the gross amount of the money that she reduced and removed from the day she filed her new W-4 forward to the end of the year. You could take that much money off your return. But see, then I got a feeling, it just depends, that you better attach a copy of that new W-4 form with that demand for lawful money verbiage on the W-4 as part of the 1040 filing. Otherwise, you're probably going to get some kind of a nasty, frivolous response. You got to prove to them that you're demanding lawful money. You got to be able to show them something. Because the person that gets that form that works in the IRS is open it up and he goes, hi, this person just took off demand for lawful money on line 21 here. What's this all about? Well, if they flip the next page over and there's a copy of all the checks, front and back, which would be nice, if your wife won't do that, if there's a copy of that new W-4, that might help it for it to fly through. Don't change your withholding, though. Leave the withholding as it is so that if you do that, you do this new W-4, and it doesn't work, well, you've got all that withholding in there so that when you won't owe any additional money or very little additional money. If you adjust the W-4 and have it go down so that they're taking out less withholding and they deny it when you file your return next year, then next year you're going to have to come up with all that money and put it back in and give it to the IRS, or then now you're in Hassle City, you're going to be, your wife's going to be mad, she's going to limit your cherry pie access, I guess. So don't do that. Just all I'm telling you is keep the withholding going just like it is. Make the modification demanding lawful money, because now everything that's going through that to that employee is lawful money. Then do the 1040 like the examples are shown that Angela has on her website.
Thank you.
That should work. And then if it doesn't, or if it does, next year you come back and talk to us and tell us how you did it.
All right, we'll do.
Mighty Mo posted something here on the chat. Did you read it? I think it's a definition or a site citing special deposit. It says a special deposit consists in the placing of specific kinds of money or property in the possession of the bank with an obligation of the bank to return the identical thing deposited, the depositor retaining title. That's Parker State Bank versus Pennington.
Yep.
Pennington.
And if we could actually get the bank manager's handbook, it's written right in there. I believe it's also in Gibson's Law on Equity. I'm not certain of that. I could go back and listen to that audio again from Christian where he discusses that whole thing. But basically, that's what it says. Anytime you put in a special deposit, it is not the property of the bank. It's the property of the depositor, and no one can take that money out of that account except you or someone else with your written approval. That's pretty powerful.
Does that apply to creditors also? That
sure, creditors could. No one can get it. The IRS can't get it. Then XYZ, Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe can't get it either.
Okay, we have a lot more questions.
Shoot away. Let's go.
Taking some more?
Sure, I don't mind. It's
okay, go ahead.
You don't go too long in this. You go what? 2 or 3? You can go 2 or 3, 4 hours.
2 hours, but we always go to 4 hours. But Claude, was that it for you?
I hope
Claude.
So.
Right,
I hope he answered your question. No, I guess he can come back.
All right. We're going to move along. North New Jersey, go ahead. What's your question?
Oh, hi there.
Hello?
Hi.
My question is, can you also do that with a W-2 form that's sent to you from your employer? Saying
no, it's too late by that time. You got to do it on the W-4. The W-2 is just a reporting document to report wages earned by the employee. You got to go down and either start doing the non-endorsement on the back of your paychecks, which is what I heartily recommend because I know it worked because I just saw the refund check just a few months ago, and or modify the W-4. I haven't tried the W-4 technique, so I can't say if it works. I know if you get the paychecks and make the non-endorsement on each paycheck, make copies and include one copy of all those non-endorsed paychecks along with your 1040 form, you're going to get a refund. I'm 99.99999. There's no guarantee. I want to say that again. This is just, there's no guarantee when you're dealing with those people.
Well, my issue is that I signed an exemption on the W-4, and for 2 years, because my job, I guess somehow or other, they must have come to the conclusion that it's optional. So what they did was they must have filed the SS-8, which would enable the IRS to say that they want withholding. So now they're withholding me at a zero exemption rate.
Yeah, that's
the
what
IRS
they
probably did.
Yeah,
the IRS probably did that.
Okay,
They sent in a notice for them to change your W-4.
Well, what you could do is go down to your payroll department and say, I'd like to fill out a new W-4 form, and then claim S1 or M5 or whatever you are. If you're married and you have several exemptions, put that down. Pay the regular amount because you can get it back. Then you have two choices. You can either use the W-4 process we just discussed, modifying it so that it has the demand for lawful money notation on it, or get your pays in a physical check and non-endorse those checks, make copies.
Well, I do have I've been getting a physical check for years, so I don't.
Good. Start non-endorsing that physical check.
The bank covers small bills, but I keep my physical cash at home.
Good for you. Good for you. I think that's wise. We never know when the banks are just going to close. Who knows? This
Absolutely.
country is in a bucket deep. So, Anyway, just they're taking it out. You just get it back because as part of that W-2 form, when you file your return for 2011, sometime early next year, you can get back all that withholding.
I'm fighting them right. I'm fighting my employer right now for a levy and filing. What I'm doing is I'm doing a demand to cease and desist and violation of application of 6331A and Fair Debt and Collection Practice Act. I'm not going to fight them based on the law. I'm going to fight them based on because they cited they cited in their letter to me that by law and order, never cited a law, never declared an order, didn't provide any kind of order from the judge or anything. So I'm going back to the person who sent me the letter. So I'm in a fight with them on the levy. But outside of that,
are they levying a tax in addition to the increased withholding they're taking out? Are they saying that you didn't pay some tax earlier, so they're coming back after that now through the levy?
Yes. But they've always taken tax from me, so I don't understand how they're doing it.
Yeah. Well, without looking at the forms, it'd be hard to say. But what you might do is instead of trying to quote 6331A, Constitution Man brought that up, and it's a very good, valid point. But you got to remember, you're still arguing, so you're in dishonor. What you need to do is just simply write a letter to them that says, I'm demanding lawful money, nunc pro tunc. Try that. You can try it your way too, but I'd like to have you try that and then report back to the group and see how they respond. See, because you're still acting like a taxpayer. And if you're receiving Federal Reserve notes as a paycheck, then you're using their private credit system, and you have to pay a tax as their annual use fee. But if you go in and write that letter that says, I'm hereby requesting, or I'd say I'm hereby commanding that you stop the levy and stop the levy. I want you to leave the withholding. You're going to get that back. Stop the levy, nunc pro tunc, as from back to my day one of my job with you. I am hereby demanding lawful money per Title 12, Section 411, comma, by, comma, and your signature. Real simple, short, 2-sentence letter, and mail that off to them. And then, it'd be hard to get it filed in a county recorder office. It'd be nice to take that and somehow make that a notice and file it as a notice. But I don't know where you're at. Here where I live, it's hard to get anything filed in the county recorder's office.
I'm in New Jersey.
Well, you might get it recorded then. Some county recorders record anything. But, it'd just be nice to have that as, now I have evidence, so then if the IRS comes back and writes something back, or, even when you file your return, you got proof that you demanded lawful money on such and such a day, nunc pro tunc, that back to day one. If you started with your company 20 years ago, technically they owe you all that back, but at least they'll stop the levy. That may very well stop the levy. I haven't tried it. I don't know, but it's certainly worth a try. it's got just as much chance of being successful as you're writing about 6331A. You know, they're just going to chuckle about that. I mean, you can sue them and all that kind of thing, and I'm sure there's people out there who would help you to do that, but I'm trying to find a path of least resistance. I want to be able to stop the levy, and if you demand lawful money nunc-pro-tunc, it'd be, I got a feeling you're going to, and it's no guarantee, it's just a feeling, an idea, they're going to stop the levy because you're demanding lawful money now, and they can't levy lawful money. They can only level the private credit from the Federal Reserve System, which is what you're receiving in every one of your paychecks. And you could make that notation on your letter also, that it is the intent of this letter that all my W-4 and or any other documents signed with XYZ Inc., your employer, are through special deposit, and all transactions are by special deposit. And again, demand is made for lawful money per 12 U.S.C. 411, comma by, comma.
Where do you put that?
Nunc-pro-tunc. In the letter. In the letter to the IRS. She said she was going to go argue with them and bring up 6331A and all that other statutes.
The IRS was going to my employer, the person who sent the letter to me, because it was not to challenge the IRS, but to the individual who sent the letter of levy to me, which the clerk at the payroll department.
Okay, well, go in and just write that all down and just, make it to the payroll department then, if they're doing it. Okay. And then you might want to also copy the IRS, because they only levy your wages when they have a letter from the IRS, the notice of levy, right? And I'm not going to go into all that notice nonsense. It doesn't matter. So your employer got that letter from the IRS. Well, did you not get a copy of that levy notice?
Yes.
Okay. Well, wherever that came from, Fresno, Ogden, wherever, when this letter that you do for your payroll department, copy them. You might even certify it. You might even have it notarized, just so you can prove that you actually did it. But the main thing is that you demand lawful money nunc-pro-tunc all the way back to day one. And then, then I just love to hear in a couple of weeks or a month or whatever what you hear back from the IRS and from your employer. Maybe you'd come back on and tell Angela, and because that will do more than your 6331 argument, I believe.
Now, once I present this, wouldn't this be contesting it under the Federal Debt and Collection Practice Act, and they would have to cease levying my salary until this is resolved?
Hey, I know doesn't Jesse say that you're supposed to do that, the guy that talks about, your debt situation? I don't know. I have not tried those things. You can do both, but if you look kind of wishy-washy by doing too many things, so you're going to have to choose the path you think is going to work and go with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and nunc-pro-tunc, I guess I have to look in Black's...
Nunc. It's N-U-N-C. It's Latin. N-U-N-C, nunc. Second word, pro, P-R-O, space, third word, tunc. T is in tango, U is in underwater, N is in Nancy, C is in Charlie. Tunc. Nunc, pro, tunc. It means now, for, then. Most people listening know that, but if you don't, that's what it means. So you're saying, I'm demanding lawful money all the way back to the day one when I worked here, so all the money that you're levying is now lawful money, and you need to be able to express this, because when you're talking to your payroll person, they're going to read the letter and go, what's this all about? What's nunc-pro-tunc mean? Well, you might want to check with legal, but it just simply means I'm demanding lawful money under Title 12, Section 411, all the way back to the first day I started working here. And you need to show this to the IRS, and they need to understand that I'm no longer voluntarily participating in their private credit system. I'm demanding lawful money, and that's not subject to tax. And then you're just going to have to see how they respond. If you want to do that Federal Debt Collection Practices Act thing, I got to believe they're going to drag their feet a whole lot longer on that one than they will on nunc-pro-tunc demand for lawful money.
Okay, so it's Title 12, Section
411. 411.
411.
Correct.
And is it all of that section, A, B, C, or whatever is in that, or just...
Oh, it's really pretty small. You can download 12 U.S.C. 411 off the Internet, and it's like 2 pages, double-spaced.
Okay.
And include it as part of your letter. Attach it to it. And you can even highlight the section that says you demand lawful money. so that your payroll department can see it. I mean, you're kind of going into uncharted waters here. I have not tried this. I don't get a paycheck. No one's levying my paycheck because I don't get one. So you're going to have to go and see, and it's your option, your choice as to whether you use that Federal Debt Collection Practices Act stuff, which is a lot of work, when a simple letter demanding lawful money and special deposit. Again, like, you should have that someplace in your letter where it is intent of all the transactions in my account and my working here are by special deposit. And I hereby demand lawful money per 12 U.S.C. 411, blah, blah, blah. See? Can you put together a letter? I wouldn't mind looking at the letter. I might be able to help you with the letter. Although, again, it's up to you. I mean, you're the one that has to sign it, not me.
Right. Well,
so, I mean,
if you could help me, I'd appreciate it. But I'm going to listen to this over and over and over again so I could understand what I'm doing, because I'm on system overload because I've been studying this code for about 3 years. So
right.
Now I've got
I can just tell you, forget about the Internal Revenue Code. Forget about all 50 titles of the United States Code. We talked about it earlier. I don't know if you were listening, but you might want to go learn how to deal in non-statutory inherent equity where your substantive rights are actually recognized. You're never going to get any kind of a remedy in at-law courts and dealing with the IRS and their codes. This nunc-pro-tunc thing, demanding lawful money, has far more chance of being successful than your Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. You know, you could be successful both ways, but I got a feeling try the demand for lawful money routine. It should be effective immediately, nunc-pro-tunc, whereas if your Debt Collection Practices Act thing is going to take some time to process. You got to send it off. They got to respond. They'll go back. You'll go back and forth a few times. Whereas your demand for lawful money is right now. There's only one letter. There's no responsing. You're dealing in equity again. Effectively, you're dealing in equity because you're saying, I demand lawful money. I'm moving out of your private credit system. I'm not dealing with your funny money anymore. Any money I get, I don't care if it says Federal Reserve note on the face of the note. It's the United States note. It's real money. It's lawful money. As
okay, so the whole thing is that if legal comes back to me, I need to study this so that I'll be able to explain myself.
Yeah, you need to say, well, look, legal, hey, go look at Title 12. You might have it with you. Here, read this. See, I have a right to demand lawful money. I don't choose to voluntarily participate any longer in the private credit system of the Federal Reserve banking system. This isn't money. And now, and I don't know how deep you want to get into this, but when you're talking to the payroll department, these people are not stupid. They're just ignorant. They don't know. They just do what they're told. They get their paycheck and they go watch American Idol. That's what they do. So when you go in there and try to explain to them that you're not going to participate in this private credit system anymore, you want lawful money, you're going to probably confuse them a little bit. You could say it's something you're doing for your taxes, but they already know it's something you're doing for your taxes because they're levying taxes from your paycheck.
Right.
So you need to be able to at least explain that. It's not complex. I don't choose to volunteer any further in the private credit system of the Federal Reserve banking system. And then have a dollar bill in your hand when you go down and talk to them. See, this isn't money, payroll clerk person. See, on the top here it says Federal Reserve note. And note is a promise to pay. That's why everything is in trust. You can't pay anything, so it's held in trust until real money comes back, if and when. So hope that helps you to understand why you're doing what you're doing, if you choose to do it.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. And I'll listen to the program a couple of times to substantiate my position. Thank you so much.
Cool. Hey, hope it helps. Let us know how you come out, because I think it'll work really right away. I really do. But you're just going to have to go try it. It's uncharted waters.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody left?
Okay. Yeah, we got a whole bunch. 6
really?
people. Okay, Timber Joe, go ahead. Did you have a question?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I got a question. My wife has been doing it, and I don't, she gets a lot of small checks, and she deposits. So she says, I'm not writing all that. And I says, okay, just write 12 USC 411. Do you feel that's adequate then?
No, because the statute says you have the right to demand lawful money. So you got to have someplace on there, demand is made for lawful money. Then you might as well say per 12 USC 411. Do like Carlos was saying, get a stamp if doesn't feel like signing. You know, I'm not saying she's lazy, but it's hardly that much effort to write that on there.
You almost said it.
Yeah. Well, I sort of did it backward, didn't I? Through the back door. You know, but not everyone likes to do that. I'm kind of a numbers cruncher, technical guy, so I like to do it. And for me, one pen will endorse 20,000 checks, and it costs $2 for a pen as opposed to $35 or $40 for a stamp. And I got the time to write it out, so I do. But if your wife doesn't want to do that, get that stamp made. Go get a stamp made in blue ink that says, "Demand is made for lawful money per 12 U.S.C. 411, by, and have a line there so she can sign."
Okay.
Simple. That's
You're
a simple solution.
Some other ideas that I like. I've been able, I live in Ohio, but I've been able to file UCCs in Michigan, which is the main state for, I think it's a 3 or 5 state area. So I was thinking what you just said is I'm going to make up a UCC addendum then and put that in the comments. All lawful transactions shall be on demand.
All transactions involving the debtor or creditor or something like that, whoever you want to mention on there, are to be by special deposit in demanding lawful money per 12 U.S.C. 411. Yeah, you could do that. You could definitely. I mean, I'm not sure what effect it would have because where are you going to use the UCC one? Who are you going to show that to?
Well, I would show it to the IRS.
Pardon me?
I'd show it to the IRS.
Well,
now it's
you could write the IRS for a hell of a lot less than a filing fee for a UCC1. See, I don't know that you need a UCC1. I think UCC1 is codes and statutes. That's at law. We're all getting our butts kicked 24/7 in the at-law courts. You got to get out of those at-law courts and get into equity where a man is involved, not a fiction. So if you're using a UCC1, I think you're still dealing in a fiction. The transmitting utility, it's still a fiction. If the IRS is bothering you, write them a letter. And just simply say, I hereby demand nunc pro tunc that all my transactions in dealing with the Internal Revenue Service and or any other government agency, all their successors and assigns are hereby done in lawful money per 12 U.S.C. You be creative. Make up your own sentence. But that's all you need to do. Write the IRS the letter if they're bothering you. Don't rock the boat if they're not bothering you. If they're not bothering your wife, don't do that. Pardon me?
They have been, and the last case was I sent them an 843 form. That's for an abatement form, if you're aware of that.
No, it's a refund, isn't it, or something?
Yeah, and they took something. Well, and what they did was they sent me another frivolous filing or something like that. So I accepted it for value, gave them a money order on it, put 12 USC on the back of the money order and in the front of it.
Have you had any kind of response from them on that?
Well, it's only been about a week and a half.
Too soon. You have to wait probably 40, 45 days. Only thing I would do
should have done a conditional, not a...
Yeah. And the A for V, does anyone listening know of anyone other than Doug Riddle who actually had an A for V actually work? I never had any luck with it. I tried it 100 times.
I did, but not with the IRS.
Yeah, that's right. The IRS is hard. So, hey, all I'd say to you is when their next letter comes, or even in the meantime, you don't have to wait for their next letter. Write them a letter and tell them that everything you're doing is by special deposit, nunc pro tunc to the first time you filed a 1040 form. See, because here's what's happening, people. When we file a 1040 form, we're acting in the capacity as a trustee, because who does the paperwork for the beneficiary? The trustee. So when you file a 1040 form, you're declaring to the Internal Revenue Service that you're the trustee, and you sign it. And so you're declaring, hey, I'm the trustee. So they have you in your individual master file as being the trustee. So the only way, other than going into court in an equity court or starting an equity action in inherent equity, I think doing the special deposit notation and just writing a letter that basically says that. I'd just like to have some of you people try it. I'm not going to rock the boat with them. I don't need to write them a letter. They're not taking any money from me. There's no point in my doing that. But if you actually have an issue, instead of all this at-law, acceptance for value, UCC1 forms and all that, I just have a deep feeling that that's a total waste of time, and all they're doing is laughing at you when you send all that junk off there, because you're playing in their codes and statutes, and you have no remedy in their codes and statutes. Some guys win here and there, but don't they win around 98 or 99% of all their cases? So I'm just saying, hey, don't bother with all that nonsense. Don't make it complex. Just write them back and say, I want everything as nunc-pro-tunc to day one. I am demanding lawful money, and all my transactions involved with the Internal Revenue Service are by special deposit only. Something like that.
Yeah, you know what? You got to remember, excuse me, though, but for interrupting you, but Doug Riddle gets it done because he said something very simple, and people aren't adhering to what he's saying. He took them to court and won. The IRS, I'm saying.
Cool.
And that means a lot. And that means a lot. I took them to court one time for a summary judgment on myself in district court, and I'm planning on doing it again for my wife and that. But if they take money or anything that I accept for value, I've had accepted for values taken, and they had liens on me, and they removed them. They gave me a certificate of release.
Jesus. They being the IRS?
Yep.
Huh.
It's a 668Z.
Why?
That means zeroed out the account. But they'll bring it back if you do not take your funds out of your escrow.
Huh.
And that's the problem that I'm having, is because I haven't taken the funds out of my escrow account. And that's what I'm trying to learn what to do in that sense, and fight them in other ways. But, that's the biggest problem out here, is people aren't coming saying, hey, you owe us. We don't owe you. And that would hurt the IRS even more when more of us wake up and start knocking on their doors and saying, you better start paying us.
Well, by demanding lawful money, I think we can do that.
Yeah.
But,
okay, is that it for you, Timber Joe? We've got a lot
yes,
of people waiting.
I've got to change my phone. My phone, when the talk, she's starting to beep. I don't know if you heard that. I'm going to switch to another phone. If I lose you, I'll just call back in, okay? But I got to switch to another phone, and I'm going to.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good. I didn't lose you then.
Nope. Okay, great.
Continue on
right
if you
along.
like.
Okay, we're going to go to California. Go ahead, California. Did you have a question? Oh, California.
No question.
There you are. Come on. I see ya. Maybe you have to unmute your phone. Maybe you have a particular button on your phone you have to unmute.
Don't know.
California. I see the thing California is vibrating, so it looks like they're trying to talk.
I'm not hearing anything, actually.
No, I'm not hearing anything either.
I don't know what to do. You have to handle that.
Yeah. You know what? I'll leave you unmuted. It looks like you're trying to talk, but if we can't hear you, I'll leave you unmuted. But right now we're going to move on to. Oh. Okay, California they just put their hand up again, and you're unmuted on this end, California. Let me see if I click that and then click that again. Okay, try now. California? Okay. Well, we'll move on. I'll leave you unmuted, but
yeah.
Wait. Okay, we're going to move on to
hey, this is Al.
Anna 88 Bell.
Yeah, you got me. You got me. Do you hear me all right?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. I get Social Security checks and military retired checks, which is supposed to be, which they are taxable. If I get checks and do the special deposit on the back,
for lawful money.
Will that be?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No, wait a minute. You said no. Put the special. You can write special deposit on the back of the check.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying he's getting
Social
Security checks.
Said.
Okay,
No, wait a minute. Hold, folks. Let's get it straight.
Yeah.
If I put the special endorsement on the back of the check, okay, then does that make that money coming from the government a taxable, non-taxable situation?
Yes. And you're non-endorsing the check. See, because when you make that special notation, you're not accepting the private credit system. So you're not really endorsing it. See, what we're all doing when we just normally deposit our checks by general deposit is we're endorsing the Federal Reserve's private credit system. So when you get your Social Security check or your military retirement check and you flip it over, and on the back of it you write demand is made for lawful money for 12 USC 411, comma, by, comma, and your signature, you just turned that from being Federal Reserve notes into United States notes or non-taxable lawful money notes.
Now,
even if the note says Federal Reserve note in the front, it's still a United States note.
Okay, now, I also receive monies deposited into the bank, okay, with one of these checks, okay?
Direct deposit, you mean?
Direct
Is that what you're
deposit. So now I've got to go down to the bank and make that a special deposit account,
or
right?
You can try that, or a simpler solution might be contact whoever's doing a direct deposit and ask them to issue you a physical check whenever payment time comes.
Yeah, and now the Social Security Department has stated that after so many years, I don't know, next year or year after, they're only going to do electronic deposits. They're not going to give out checks anymore.
Well, and between now and then, I got a feeling that somebody's going to be taking on the Social Security system in equity and stopping them to do that. They'll issue special checks in certain cases, but you'll probably have to go into an equity.
Yeah, because
get it solved.
I did a thing with Social Security here, and had a check deposited into a bank account to use a debit card, and then turned around and changed it the following month. And if you do it 20 days prior to the mailing date your check is due, that's sufficient time to get everything done properly so you get your check on time. Okay? So that's not a problem, right?
Yeah.
But
for now they're sending it to in a physical check, right?
Yeah. So now they're going to be sending it back to me in a physical check from here on out.
Good. And then just make that endorsement, that non-endorsement on the checks. Make copies of them. Make 2 copies of the front and back of the check. Yep. Send one with your 1040 and keep the other one in your file. And you just, if you've been on the call, there's an example of the 1040 form showing how to add it in one place and take it out on the other. It's not going to come to you as wages. It's going to come as something else. Mm-hmm. Maybe do you get a W-2 or what do you get as a retired person showing your
1099-R.
Okay, then it goes on a different line, but that won't matter. I don't know if you do your own taxes or whoever, you'll add it in on one line and take it off on another.
Okay, I'll have to look at that on the form. I got on the call late. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay, I need y'all to hold on a second. I have to unmute. Oh, okay, I don't see her anymore. Okay, never mind. We have Central Arkansas. Go ahead, Central Arkansas. Did you have a question for John Henry Doe?
Yeah, hi, Angela. This is Armin again. By the way, again, thank you for all that you do for all of us, and I just want you to know that I really appreciate and love you for it.
Oh, thank you so much.
John Henry.
Sure.
I listened to James Madison's call on August 23rd. I listen to his call fairly regularly because he has some good stuff, and I found that call exceptionally good. And I'm real interested. It's pretty obvious that you're a very educated, very erudite fellow, and probably part of a study group, which I would love to be part of if I could find some.
Actually, I'm not in any kind of a study group at all, although I do participate with Christian Walters and his New Trust Technology. But, I don't really go on and talk to him much. I'm just learning all that stuff.
Well,
but I'm very much a very secluded. I used to try and talk to people about all this stuff. I used to travel a great deal. I used to travel around and teach insurance agents how to go through an income tax return and move money around and sell insurance products. I used to, you're standing in line to get on an airplane. I'd bring up the tax was voluntary, and they just kind of look at you like you had a horn growing out of the side of your head. So I just kind of quit doing that. It's just I pretty much keep to myself. I do know a few people that know what we know, but by and large, the powers that be have done a very good job of dumbing down America. They're watching American Idol and baseball, and they don't have a clue. It's not that they wouldn't be interested if they understood, but most people just they are confused when you mention these ideas to them. They're so conditioned to believe they need to file and pay, and that their taxes actually do good, and that they're not very open to making changes in their world.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I have the same experience.
Yeah.
My question basically is how do you feel about? I find that the post office is a repository of the Republic extremely stimulating idea.
Yes.
And
I want
that's
somebody to try that though. Arminius is your name?
Yes.
Okay, well, Arminius, I listen to that, and it's like it sounds really cool, but somebody's got to go do that. I'm not going to be the guinea pig to do that. It sounds like it's really cool, and it makes total sense. But somebody's going to have to show. They talk about, well, just pray about it, and you'll get that information. How to actually do that process that they discussed on that call on August 23rd. But I need to see the documents and because he mentioned several times you got to be very careful and do it right and don't make any mistakes. It can be costly. Well, show me how to do it and I'll do it. But until they actually have documents, I'm excited about that too. I think it's a really cool option. It could be a way to offset any and all potential costs or liabilities by IRS and credit cards and all that stuff. It might be the answer. But it could also be just a big can of worms, and that's how I feel about that, Arminius.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to listen to them, and if they come back on and talk in the future,
he's supposed to be on again this Tuesday. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
This coming Tuesday?
Yes, sir.
Good. I'll check it out too, because I'm interested in what they're talking about. I just want to. You got to have more detail on what they gave in that one call, at least for
that's
my.
the way I feel too. Because if you open up a post office box in the name of the estate, and they want a picture ID, and somehow it escaped me as to exactly how to do that without.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll iron all that out. But it is a neat idea, and it could be a solution for a lot of people's problems all over this country. Although it could be just another rabbit hole too. We're going to have to wait and see. That's how I feel about it. I do hope it works, though.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, because it would be cool if it did. But it's, in effect, they're talking about equity in that call. Right. See, it goes back to that getting into equity and special deposit versus general deposit and dealing in your substantive rights. So that's why I don't worry about the Social Security. I'll be able to go move in a equity suit or equity process to get them to issue me a check when I reach that age, if they still even exist. Who knows?
Well, the Mayan calendar is ending as of October 24th to the 28th, according to...
28th, I think it is this year. Again, that might be something, and that might be a non-event. When we get there, I guess we'll all know, won't we?
Right, exactly.
It sounds good, though. It makes for nice...
Dawning of the new age.
Yeah, it could be. I hope so. I mean, there's just as many guys that are out there saying that there's going to be World War III here in the next... whatever short time, and there's other guys saying there's going to be a golden age. That's possible. We're just 50-50, huh? I'm just waiting, and we'll see. But in the meantime, we still got to handle, if you're an employee, you're paying taxes, and you want to get it back, here's a method that I have found actually worked. It only worked once. I mean, I haven't done this for 400 people. I just haven't. I don't know that many people that work and actually get a paycheck. I would help more, but it's hard to get people to even listen to it, even discuss the concept. I don't think I'll do that. They're just lost. I mean, they're just so brainwashed, so conditioned. It's difficult to find more people that want to try it. And that's why I want to go on this call, is because even if you don't file and pay yourself, you may know your brother, your cousin, your uncle, your mom. They may all still be working, and here's a way you can, hey, mom doesn't have to do anything except make a little notation on the back of her check, make a couple of copies, cash the check, get the cash. She can live her life and do just what she's doing now, and she gets a refund at the end of the year instead of paying.
As long as you put the appropriate entries on the 1040.
Right. You got to put it. Yeah. You can't get the money back if you don't do it right. I mean, but it's not that complex. For the average employee, it goes in on line 7, it comes out on line 21. The end. Finish the form, and the math will pop out your refund, no matter how you mess up. Just read the form. You don't have to pay somebody a big, huge fee to do your taxes. Not really. So, but anyway, I mean, thanks for your question. Hope that helped.
It helped a lot. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving right along here. Let's see. KMA Club. Hey, Dean. Hi, did you have a question?
Hello, Miss Angela. Yeah, I did. Well, I've got a transportation business, so if I take all my checks that I get from whoever I haul for, put them in or do that demand for lawful money on all the checks, now does that mean I don't have to pay taxes on it at all?
Well, but now in the meantime, yeah, absolutely. That's what you'll get a full refund if you're not paying any estimate. Because since you're an independent contractor, you have your own transportation business. I've heard you several times on other calls, so I know you're a truck driver, right? So, yeah. Well, hey, that's we love you guys. I mean, that's how I get food is from you guys. Anyway. So you're going to file a Schedule C as a sole proprietor probably, or as a business operator, unless you have a corporation, whatever. But are those checks made out to you or to some other non-physical entity?
Tell you the truth, I don't see them. My wife does.
Well, you should take a look at them and find out. I mean, well, but you know on whether or not you have some kind of a statutory entity that you...
Yeah, I think they're made out to Marriage Run, LLC.
Okay, an LLC. But see, that still is a pass-through entity, right? An LLC is just a conduit entity, passing through the LLC, and you get a K-1, it kicks out on your 1040. That's all you do. I mean, it just goes on. Instead of having something on line 7, you're going to have something on line whatever it is. I don't have the 1040 up. I can tell you, though. You're going to have
basically, what it would be is if I don't pay anything in, and I do the lawful money thing, right. And then when it comes time to file a 1040, I basically put on there what I demanded for lawful money, what I was paid overall, and then basically it's a wash.
Exactly. One offsets the other, and you shouldn't have to pay. You should have no tax liability. But I would suggest that just in case, you might want to put a little money away so that if for some reason, because again, it's worked once. I know it worked on one case. I wish I had 500 examples to share with you. But even if we had 50,000 examples, you don't know what those people are going to do. They might decide to put their arms across their chest and go, to hell with you, we're not going to recognize that anymore. I mean, they can do that because they are who they are. So I would suggest that you put a little money aside so that just in case that should happen, they come back and say to you, when you do that lawful money thing, we're going to call this frivolous. Dean, wasn't it, Dean? We're going to call that frivolous, Dean. Then you got to come up with the money to pay. So I do not expect that to happen. If you take your LLC and all the checks that come into the LLC, if your wife will properly non-endorse them with that verbiage and drop them in and cash them, keep that money someplace where just you and she know, and then you do your return just like you mentioned. You'll take the money off your K-1 and you'll add it into one line, and you'll take it off on line 21 as a demand for lawful money reduction, just like the example of the 1040 shows that Angela has on her website. You should not know, your liability should be zero. Since you paid nothing in, you're not going to get anything back, but you should not owe anything in addition at the end of the year.
Okay, now
you got it.
Here's the other one. If you do deposit money into your account, couldn't you then do that special the thing that you were talking about on the signature card?
Absolutely.
Then once you've done that, when you write a check, since we have checks made up and we can have whatever we want put on the check, can't you put on there to be paid in lawful money also?
I suppose you could. But, I don't know how people would react to that. If you're paying your grocery bill or your power bill, odds are they'll take the check and, it should be okay. But I don't have experience with that, Dean. I just don't know. But it should work. But, you might find somebody that says, well, I don't like that notation underneath your signature line or over on the memo line where you say payment is made in lawful money. I don't see how they would, but I'm just saying you'd have to try that and find out.
I would explain to them how, yeah, you do too. Let me tell you why.
Yeah, well, and then correct. That's what as long as you can verbalize that knowledge so that they can understand it. Don't try to get too in depth with them because you're talking to, 2 screws short of a robot. That's the way Christian describes people. For the most part, that's what they are. They're basically robots. They do this little thing every day and they get a paycheck and they go home and they watch American Idol. You know, they don't know anything about what's going on. But if you definitely make that non-endorsement on your checks, your tax liability should work out to be zero at the end of the year. But if you are only starting now in September, you've got 8 months of the year, 7 months, 8 months through August. You got 8 months of the year that you may have a tax liability for. If you haven't paid anything in, you might end up having an obligation to pay at the end of the year.
But then if I do that non-pro-tunc thing ever since I started my business, that's 6 years worth.
Well, all I can tell you is
they'd owe me a bunch of money back.
Right. That's right. I mean, you absolutely, that should work in theory, but I just can't say that I've done it in practice and it actually worked. I can't give you that information because I don't have it. I haven't done it. But absolutely, if you do nunc-pro-tunc demanding lawful money all the way back to the time you opened up your LLC and or bank account, you know, the IRS should not be able to hassle you at all. But I can't guarantee that that's what's going to happen. That's what should happen, but there's no guarantee.
Okay. And would you add in that the thing about the line about when you write them a letter back, add in the line that says that it's all voluntary in their manual?
I wouldn't. Don't care about that. You know, I mean, if you want to, you can say that the participation in the private credit system of the Federal Reserve banking system is voluntary. You might express it that way, but I would don't try to quote that voluntary. You know, there are statutes and codes beyond this, modified where we are mentioning one statute and code, Title 12, Section 411. But I mean, you don't want to be sort of in your face and expressing it the way you just did. You know, everything's voluntary and I'm doing this nunc-pro-tunc. Well, it sort of sounds like you're thumbing your nose at them. Whereas if you said, I no longer voluntarily choose to participate in the private credit system of the Federal Reserve banking system, nunc-pro-tunc back to 2005 or whatever, 6 years, so it'd be 05. Anyway, you could try it. Just try it and then come back and tell us how it works out. Because I don't know. Yep. I wish I had all the answers, but that job's already filled and I don't have it.
Okay, I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Learned a lot tonight, even between times that I got knocked off with losing the call and had to dial back in.
Oh, bummer.
So
Sorry
thank you both. Appreciate it. That's not your fault. That's Sprint out here. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. Okay, we're going to move on to West Michigan. Go ahead. Did you have a question?
I do. You mentioned earlier that you had a court case, I believe it was in Arizona, that you abated using this process.
I used the abatement process, not the demand for lawful money process.
Right, the abatement process. What type of court case was that?
Criminal contempt.
Criminal contempt? Okay.
Title 18, Section 401.
Okay,
Their code statute.
USC 401. Was that federal court or state court?
Federal.
Federal court.
Yes,
do you have the case number for that?
I do, but I'm not going to share that with you on the phone.
Okay.
I don't want to poke the gorilla.
I understand.
It did abate. They wanted to throw me in jail for 6 months minimum. And had I gone to the hearing that day, to the trial, it was actually a bench trial, I probably would be out by now since that was 06. But anyway, it definitely works. It definitely works. But that's for a court case, and if anything were to come in the mail from that court even today, I would simply write on the outside of the envelope, no such entity at this location, and throw it right back in the mailbox. No additional stamp, just using their postage. I'd darken out the straw man's address with a black, what do you call them, Angela? That little black pen.
Sharpie.
Sharpie, that's what I can't think of that word. I know. Anyway, and then throw it right back in the mail. Once you do the abatement, the main thing, if you get nothing else out of this conversation, understand that once you've abated anything, parking ticket, court case, federal, state, whatever, you can no longer respond or file into that court case anything. You're done with it.
Right.
If you act like a defendant, you sham your abatement. So
if you're a defendant, then the idea is you want to get out of there and you want them to have them leave you alone.
And see, the abatement will do that for you for probably, I'm going to say $75 to $100 these days, because registered mail costs more now. Probably costs a little more to publish a notice in a legal notice newspaper, but something for less than $100, you can get rid of the whole case. And for people who just want to be left alone and not bothered by all that nonsense, it's a whole lot simpler process. And now I know I've heard you in other calls. You like to go into court. Good for you. If you're good at that and you enjoy that and you get to go home, then you're a better man than me. But just for the other people who just want to handle it, simple, sweet, done, few steps, abatement is the ideal plan. It's very simple. I don't think God ever meant for it to be all as complex. The powers that be want you to make it complex through the at-law process, and there's 63 million titles, codes, and statutes, whatever, but the abatement ignores all that.
See, I've never heard of anybody actually being successful on an abatement, and I've been aware of the abatements for about 15 years now. And if I had seen written documentation of one from beginning to end where the person got the result they were after, then I would have gone ahead and said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and give this a shot. But I've seen the forms. You are that person, obviously.
I am that person. And you will. And I physically did it, and I'm standing here talking to you, and they did not put me in jail. I got to tell you, though, that for a number of months after that trial, every time the doorbell rang, I'd jump right out of the skin.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. Okay.
I know what you're doing.
And actually, about a month or two after the trial, some U.S. Marshals showed up at a friend of mine's house and said they were looking for me. See, they want to get you to volunteer. It is all voluntary. We all know that. We've all discussed that. You have to volunteer to be the defendant. And when you go down to that court and you do anything in at-law side, give your name, you just became the defendant, right? And you're dead meat. That's just a matter of how dead or how much they're going to take from you and how long they're going to throw you in jail. So it does work, but don't sham it. Of all those people that you probably know that tried the abatement, what they typically do is another letter comes in the mail from the court after you've abated it, and they open it up and they put in a 500-page memorandum of law, take it down and file into the case. Well, you dummy. What did you expect was going to happen? You lost because you just became the defendant. You can no longer speak to them, don't answer the door, don't take their phone calls. You cannot. And even if they drag you into the court, let's say that for some reason you abated their court case and they still came and drug you into the court, the only thing you're going to say, the judge says, are you John Henry Doe? Oh, well, I guess my abatement stands then. Are you John Henry Doe? Well, you're saying my abatement stands. That's all you got to say. And after a while, they're just going to have to let you go. Because if you don't volunteer to become that defendant, they got nothing.
Right. What if you said something like, I do not have enough information with which to give you a response? You have not provided me with enough information with which to give you a response.
You could try that. I mean, you can come back and tell us how it works out. I hope you don't go to jail for contempt.
Well, I'm not.
But I would just simply say, you're saying my abatement stands.
Yeah.
What you're saying is my abatement stands. I don't care if they say it's 230. Oh, what you're saying is my abatement stands.
My abatement stands. Yeah.
That's all you got to say. Don't make it complex. Don't try to make what's simple more complex.
Right.
Just do what works.
The secret.
My abatement stands. My abatement stands. My abatement stands. My abatement stands. I don't stand on my paperwork. I just say, you're saying then my abatement stands. No matter how you want to say that, all you're ever going to say is my abatement stands. And I'm sorry if I'm pounding that point in, but I have two friends that did an abatement and then they shammed it by arguing, by filing documents into the case, and they're sitting in jail as we speak because they shammed their abatement.
That's it. The secret is, and I'm thinking I've been in court more times than I care to say, but in a criminal matter or an arraignment or anything, they always ask you, if you don't have an attorney, they want your name at an arraignment, first thing.
That's right, because they only deal in fictions. And attorneys are agents for fictions. The only way we can ever have any remedy is if we go in through equity, non-statutory inherent equity. And then that's where and I think someone with your experience and knowledge, you should be over listening to Christian Walter's discussion of new trust technology, which is basically, there is no money. You know that. I know that. Everyone listening to this call knows that. Since there's no money, you can't pay a bill. Therefore, everything we do is in trust. They set up a trust. I promise to pay you in the future when there's money. You're going to perform this service. I promise to pay that, I promise to perform and you're going to pay me in the future. So we're dealing in trusts. But you got to know how to invoke equity, and you've got to. That's the part I'm trying to learn, because I think once we get that, and I think Christian's already there, and some of the other people who are on that call are already there, there's virtually nothing they can do. We can actually take our country back that way. It's highly probable. But I mean, again, I don't have the experience, but I do have the experience with the abatement, and they easily could have thrown me in jail had they want to. But the funny thing is, the marshals went to a friend's house who had never been to my house. But on the day that I was arraigned, when this whole thing started, because I was a fool at that time and walked into the court and went to the arraignment and blah, 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 blah. I don't know how many hearings I went to on that criminal contempt thing. But the day of my arraignment, they actually, about 1 o'clock that afternoon, I hear a knock, knock, knock on my door. And at that time, I opened my door. And I wouldn't do that now unless I know someone's coming. But there was a marshal standing there. And he said, hey, John, you need to be you have an arraignment today. And I said, well, excuse me, young man, but that took place at 9 o'clock this morning. You know, I've already been there. He wasn't there to tell me about the arraignment. He was there to prove to me that he knew where I lived. And if he wanted to come and get me, he could do that anytime he chose.
Yes.
Once I did the abatement, and they knew where I lived, they could have come to my door anytime after that trial. But they never did, because I abated it. They hoped that they could go over to a friend and talk to them about they were looking for me, and hope that I'd be scared enough to walk in and say, I'm turning myself in, here I am. Don't do that. Don't be stupid. Just don't respond in any way, shape, or form once you've done the abatement. And if somebody comes back 6 months from now where I'm listening to Angela's call and they talk, well, I did that abatement that guy talked about, and they came and threw me in jail, and blah, blah, blah. And then I want you to make him tell you what he did. Well, I went down and filed some stuff in a court case after that, and then you wonder why you went to jail, you damn fool. But
they're
baiting
you.
Pardon me?
What they're doing is they're baiting you. It's like you're the
Bingo.
fish. They're
so don't be
dangling
baited.
the worms
Don't be a
down there,
fish.
and
don't
you look
get
up
hooked.
there, and it's like, I don't eat worms. So I keep putting them going, and they keep putting this worm down, and as soon as you decide I'm going to bite on it, they got you.
Bingo.
It's you got to agree.
And that's what. And all those people that you spoke of that had done abatements in the past that failed, I'm absolutely certain that 100% of the time they did something to sham that abatement. They may not have understood it.
What I think too.
But I promise you, because I did it and I didn't sham it, and I'm sitting here talking to you.
Yeah,
they didn't come to my house. They didn't throw me in jail.
The federal court is not particularly nice. I know somebody who didn't show up for some things, and she was supposed to be there at 9 in the morning, and by lunchtime there were marshals at her door. She lived in an apartment building, so the guy who was like the manager or somebody in the apartment building unlocked the door.
Where she lived.
And they knew where she lived anyway, and she had 3 marshals standing in her apartment. And when they said, get up and go, I mean, she's going to get up and go, period. So she didn't use the abatement process. She would be defined as a belligerent claimant, and I do mean belligerent. And she incurred the wrath of the judges, and accordingly she did 2 separate 1-year stints in federal prison, just because she failed to get her distemper shot. But anyway, I'd like to.
Had she just done the abatement and not shammed it, she would never have endured that. But now she's older and wiser. Hopefully you share that with her. I don't know this lady. I can only say I feel really sorry for you, ma'am. But, you know, one of our biggest problems is that we all want to try to show them how smart we are, you know, by putting together 500-page memorandums of law, filing into the case, and thinking they're going to be impressed by that. They just chuckle and put it aside. They don't read that garbage.
They don't read 500 pages.
Hell no. I mean, over the years I've seen so many gurus, and one of them is the guy out and I shouldn't say anything bad, but anyway, they like to file documents and show how smart they are and quote lots of codes and statutes. That's just a runaround. They're just playing with you. They're dangling you like a mouse from a cat's paw, you know. So anyway, tell that lady about the abatement and tell her to don't be angry. And, you know, it's hard not to be. You got to be courteous because that's common courtesy to be that. And even though they don't deserve it, I think in 99% of the cases, those people don't deserve to be treated nicely because those black robe people are not nice people. And they do hurt people, and they do it with malice aforethought. But, you know, if you just have a simple couple of little tools, most of these things you can stop, but you still have to be nice.
Well, that's the secret. It's kind of like I kind of go in there with a matter-of-fact attitude, nonchalant, and just make my requests. And it's a lot easier that way.
You're not confrontational.
Right. You're not confrontational with them.
Yeah.
And,
it's excuse me. I don't use Your Honor, even the last few times I went in there. That was a long time ago, but I would say sir or ma'am. There's nothing honorable about those people to me. Now, Christian says you got to see them through equity eyes, and you'll see that they really are honorable, but you're never invoking equity, so they're treating you at law. They're treating you like a slave, which is what you are. You're a ward of the court. You're a ward of the state. You're non compos mentis. So why should I treat you as anyone who has any knowledge or intellect? You're a child. You're coming in here spouting all this junk, and it's irrelevant. And that's what they do, and that's why we're all getting our butts kicked. Well, I didn't get my butt kicked, thank God.
It's a question of how you act there to begin with, and I've always said that when you go into court, you're going to wear one of three hats. You're going to be a civil plaintiff, a civil defendant, or a criminal defendant, and depending on which hat you have on determines how you act. It determines whether you even show up or not. So keep that in mind.
But in any case, you're always the defendant if you show up.
Well,
now, you might try this special appearance stuff. I'm not going to go in there and do that. If I can stay out of their courtrooms, I'm a whole lot safer because anytime you're in that building, you're always
you can well be the civil plaintiff. Yesterday, I just filed 3 lawsuits. I'm the civil plaintiff. I want to be in the court for what I want to do. I want to be there for this.
Okay.
So it depends on what you're trying to. First, before you even think the word court, think, what do I want to accomplish? And if you can at all avoid going there, then that's probably what you should do. But in some cases, you don't have any other options open to you. So if you don't have any other options, or at least you decide, okay, do I quote unquote just let this go? I've been damaged here. The person doesn't want to square up with me. They don't feel they did anything wrong, or in the alternative, if they did, they still don't feel they have to pay me back. And I want to get relief. I want damages for it. I've been injured. So that's what you go to court for as a plaintiff. That's why people file civil lawsuits every day.
But you voluntarily choose to do that. Because that's what you like to do.
Well, you voluntarily choose to. Let's put it this way: if I could write people a nice letter saying this is how you damaged me, and I think you owe me, let's say, $500, and they wrote me back and they said, yeah, we agree, we did damage you, but it's only $250. And then I wrote them back another letter saying, well, I'll tell you what, just give me $375 and we'll call it square. And they wrote me a letter back and said, here's a postal money order or whatever, and said, fine. Then I wouldn't go to court. But when they basically, so when I say I've been damaged, they know I've been damaged. They say up yours. Then I say, up yours. Here's the summons and complaint. Put it there.
There you go.
You got to keep in mind
skill.
what are you trying to get what are you trying to do? So what's the factual basis? What's the history? What's the background? And at least 75% of all these calls are all geared towards when they come at us. And it's usually somebody that draws a government paycheck coming at us, and that's what the problem is. So when we can go ahead and by merely filing this abatement, I know there's also called the neutral response that a gentleman called No Tax Man and Dave DeReamer and Howard Griswold promote. Those have worked. So there's numerous ways to go. There's numerous ways to skin the cat.
Right.
And that's the whole idea here. But I would like to get that court case number. I appreciate that you don't want to go ahead and give it on the air. Can you give it to? Can you go ahead and give it to Angela, and she can get it to me some way?
I'm not sure I want to do that. I don't know. I don't really care about it anymore.
It's 2006, so they're not going to. I would just look it up on Pacer anyway. So it's not something that. But 2006, believe me, they're not going to. It's 5 years down. 5 years have gone by. They're not going to. They've forgotten about this case. They could care less about. They could care less about.
Yeah, but after hearing the call tonight, it's all refreshed in their mind.
Yeah, there's probably some of those junkers listening too. So yeah, I'd rather not do that. I mean, I'm just telling you, I'm giving my word as a man that I did endure that. I did process it that way, and I don't know what the Pacer says, what the docket says. I don't care. It doesn't refer to me. It doesn't deal with me, so I really don't care.
Well, I'm not interested in. I'm not distrusting you, okay? But I want to see what the facts and circumstances are the whole, and you're talking to somebody that has reviewed over 50 court files. So when I go read a court file, I read between the lines and I see what's going on. I can see what's going on that's not even in the court, what's going on, just by reading the court file. And
the case was involved with the IRS. It had to do with a show cause to why I didn't produce books and records. That's what the whole thing led up to that. It went through there was a civil case before the criminal case too. But
I don't even know
the criminal case is the one I abated and stopped and ended.
Right. Well, the only thing that I like to, when I hear somebody had a win, and this is a win, a good win, I like to go review it, and I like to say, okay, how did they do it? And then if I'm ever in that predicament, I now have, it's a shot of confidence. It's like somebody giving you a shot of adrenaline, but in this case, it's the adrenaline is confidence, saying, yeah, you can actually go do this. And it actually works, because as you know, if you followed any of these calls, we're constantly bombarded with somebody's theory, and as soon as we ask them, well, where did you do this and what happened, all of a sudden the line goes dead, because they've never done it anywhere. They don't know what happened with it, and they're basically, it's just like, I don't want to go so far as to say it's a waste of everybody's time, but I'm leaning towards it's a waste of everybody's time, rather than when somebody says they did something and they got a positive result, then they're not wasting anybody's time, because there's a lot of us that are in the same predicament. I know people that have gotten warrants for their arrest because they didn't go ahead and produce books and records to the IRS, and they didn't handle things right. And they had the U.S. Marshals knocking on their door, and when the 5 U.S. Marshals showed up, 6 people left, and one of them was not a U.S. Marshal, and I dare say he was in handcuffs when he left. So this is not exactly, they don't play nice. Let's say this is for keeps. And when we go out and fight them, we have to make sure that we've got our ducks in a row and do everything properly. And that's how we end up winning. And that's how. That's the whole secret of this. That's the whole idea of me getting on these calls, is to learn different remedies that work both for my purpose and for people that I talk to. Because there's enough people that I deal with that every one of my friends virtually has been in court more times than they care to be. And that's probably why we're all friends and acquaintances, because we have all these similarities in common. And we all would like to go ahead and essentially not have the negative results that we've had in the past.
Right.
Well, okay, I'm all
you can see the documents on Angela's website. The abatement document is simple. I wouldn't modify it even one jot or tittle, really. I would, if I have to use it again, it'll be exactly like that with different names and that sort of thing. But I would definitely use it again. It did work, and I am living proof. But I don't think I want to give you that case number, because I don't want that case number bandied all over the internet. I think it could be overall detrimental. I don't think it's worth it. You'll just have to, if you get somebody, try it. Try it. It should work. But don't sham it. I repeat, do not sham the abatement once you do it.
Just go in there. It's that simple enough. You do it, and you just once you start the process, any process, and you follow through with the process you started, regardless of what it is. And if you start mixing processes, then you're going to get what happens when you go ahead and mix everything up without looking at the ingredients that you're supposed to put into the pie.
And you'll end up messing it up, and it won't work because you altered the document to a point where you had to put in your proof of your intelligence kind of quotes and things and statutes and codes, and you ruin it. So use the document as it was used. It worked for me. If you change it, I'm not going to guarantee you anything. All you got to do is just change the names and the dates, and it should work wholeheartedly for you.
Thanks so much, Matt. We're going to move on. We've got Claude 52108. Go ahead, Claude.
Yes, how you doing again?
Doing good.
Thank you.
I want to also find out in regards to I have to check.
You have to speak up real loud.
Okay, sorry about that. Also, I wanted to find out, I've heard about someone using deposited for credit on account or exchange for non-redeemable Federal Reserve notes. Is that
I saw that years ago. People were using that years ago. I don't personally know anyone who ever did it with any success. I never tried it. I used the other one, and it worked. So, I mean, you could try that. You can come back and tell us if it works or not. But we know the other one works, so why change it? Just use the demand for lawful money notation, verbiage, and you should have success. That other one might work. I just don't know. You could try it and come back and tell us next year. But if it goes badly, you got to tell us that too.
All right, no problem. Another question, now when you actually deposit in the check, are you actually
cashing the check?
Okay, so you're actually cashing the check, not necessarily just depositing them in. Okay.
Then just take the cash with you. It's now United States notes or lawful money. Put it in a fireproof box and keep it someplace where you and your wife know where it's at and nobody else. And, you're in good shape. Because like I recommended earlier, everyone should have at least 6 months of their operating cash outlay costs in something safe outside of the bank. Okay? Put it wherever you want to, but keep it outside of the bank. Because who knows? In this precarious little country we live in, this planet Earth today, no one knows from day to day what's going to happen. So, I feel sorry for all the sheeple out there who have all their money in the bank, and if the banks close, they're just SOL. That's the ones they want, because they'll line up and do whatever the powers that be want them to do because they have no money. Well, so you will be able to go and buy food and stuff where other people could not do that. Very simple, just a little hedge against the potential not-so-good future. That's all.
Did you have anything else, Claude? I had to mute you out because we got your children yelling in the background.
Okay,
Did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, that's it for me. Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay.
You're very welcome.
You. You're having fun over there.
Having a good time, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, James 1234. Do you have a question?
Yes. How you doing?
Doing well.
Fine, thank you.
Okay. With the process that's been discussed, is that applicable to savings accounts as well as checking? And if so,
any kind of money. Because in order for you to make a deposit into a savings account, you had to get a check, right? Unless you're doing direct deposit into your savings account, then I would stop that and have it converted into checks. And you can put the money, if you want to, I would just take it out of the savings account and cash it. You're better off. That's what David Merrill felt, and I kind of like that idea because I don't trust the banks any farther than I can throw a bank. So, but if you feel like you just want to make a deposit, then on your savings account signature card form, put that demand for lawful money notation and also special deposit, intent of special deposit for all transactions on the account card, and you should be good.
Okay. Now, with a non-interest bearing account, what is the insured limit on the money that can be placed in there?
Well, I'm not a banker, but I believe it's $250,000. You have to go ask your banker that question.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He'll tell you.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're very welcome.
All righty. Anybody else? Press *8. Otherwise, we'll close it out. We've been at it for 2 hours and 27 minutes.
Yeah.
Covered a lot of territory, and I've got to get to work and get that abatement thing posted.
Get that up for them so they can use it if they choose.
The other schedule, yeah.
It works really well, and I've proven it twice, once on a parking ticket and once on a court case, but it definitely will work as long as you don't sham it.
You said, we'll be done in 15 minutes, and yeah.
Angela, I'd like to just say, for all the listeners who live in Arizona who actually have paid in state withholding and would like to get that back, I can help them to do that. And so what they need to do is that they can just email you, I live in Arizona, and I'd like to get my state income taxes back. And then we'll connect here in Arizona, and I can help them to do that. I have been successful in doing that for 06, 07, 08, 09, and 10. All for the same person.
Only in Arizona, though?
Oh, I've only tried it in Arizona. It may very well work in any other state that has a withholding or a state income tax. I'd have tried it there. because I don't know anybody there. But if they want to try it, we can try it. But anyway, just for people in Arizona, that I have actual proof. See, because in anything that I've talked about tonight, I'm not even going to tell you about it unless I've actually done it and it worked. I wouldn't be mentioning it if I hadn't done it and it hadn't worked. Right. That works. And I've done it for 2 people now in Arizona. And I only just started doing it last year, but it worked out pretty cool.
All righty.
So
anyone
this is something
that's
they can keep in mind if they have an interest.
Yeah,
okay.
Email me and I'll forward your email on to John Robert Doe. I'm Robert.
Yeah. Henry.
Where did that come from? I know. John Robert.
Yeah.
I know somebody named John Robert. I guess that's where it came from.
Sure.
All
Are
right,
we done
anybody? I guess so. It looks like we're done. Let me check one more time. Oh, no. I'm sorry. There's 4 questions up there right now.
Oh, jeez. Well, we're going to shut it off at 9, though, okay? It's 8:33 by the clock on my computer.
Right.
I want to be done by 9 o'clock my time because I've got some things I've got to do.
Okay. So. Let's move right along. KMA Club. Go ahead, Dean. Did you have another question?
Yeah, I forgot to ask this one a while ago. When you do the abatement on a traffic ticket where there's going to be points involved, do they still put the points on your license, or does it just go away altogether?
It should get them to go away altogether. Although I got to tell you, again, I've never done it on a ticket like that because I haven't gotten any tickets. Just my luck, I guess. So, but I know I did it on a parking ticket and it worked, but there's no points for the parking ticket. But if you abate the ticket, anything that is involved with the ticket is stopped. There should be no points. But what you would have to do is do the abatement on the ticket, then, come back on Angela's call here in a month or 2 or whatever and see if your insurance goes up or if you get any other kind of documentation. As long as it doesn't come from the court that issued the ticket, you can look at other documentation. You just can't open anything that comes from the traffic ticket issuance place. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay,
so,
thank you.
It
That's what I
absolutely
needed
should.
to find out.
The ticket's gone. It's simply removed. It's gone. So all the points and anything else that would be attached to that ticket would be simply removed. That also means that they can't trade it around the world. It's abated. It's stopped.
Okay.
Should work.
Thank you, then.
Okay, Dean. Let us know how that works out if you do try it.
Yeah. All righty. Moving right along, we have here Mississippi. Go ahead, Mississippi.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad to be on the call. Thanks so much, Angela, for being able to set this up. I kind of got on the call late, but I wanted to ask a question about. I've been on unemployment for the last year, and I got a 1099. Would the lawful money thing, would that work on the 1099?
Yeah, sure it would. It works on anything, but you'd have to do it nunc pro